Chapter 1166. The ancient dragon empress had clearly paid a heavy price in choosing to instantly kill Ao Shinyu. At the very least, she had sustained some injuries. Her battle style was very aggressive, and she was most likely trying to use this method to make up for the evil dragon's lack of combat prowess. If the passageway between the two worlds could be opened very quickly, then they would most likely focus on defense in order to hold off their enemies for a while. However, the evil dragons had chosen to launch a ferocious counterattack with the goal of killing their enemies. They were doing this not only to intimidate their enemies, but also to weaken their enemies in advance in order to prevent their enemies from joining forces to create a force that they could not defend against. This just proved that it would take some time to open up the passageway between the two worlds. In a battle of attrition, the evil dragons would lose. Hence, they were doing everything in their power to take advantage of the fact that the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Force forces were split up to wipe out a portion of their enemies' forces. Lin had figured this out, and the urge to escape and find his teammates was extremely strong. However, the tragedy was that they were caught within a few seconds. The ancient dragon empress' eyes were crimson, and her rainbow dragon scales glowed with an extremely terrifying divine light, striking Lin with a sense of asphyxiation. She was able to insta-kill Ao Shinyu, so she could insta-kill Lin and Su Xiaolan as well. Sure enough, tears of blood flowed from the ancient dragon empress' eyes. A crimson divine Tao light enshrouded Lin and Su Xiaolan as boundless grief and pain transformed into a substantial power that affected heaven and earth. A rain of blood fell from the sky. Pain of slaughter. A spell technique that could insta-kill Ao Shinyu appeared again. The ancient dragon empress had unleashed a killing technique against Lin and Su Xiaolan right from the get-go. The reason why she didn't want to engage in a prolonged battle was because she had discovered that there was a powerful force approaching from extremely far away. She had to kill these two powerful enemies before this, which was why she had unleashed this spell technique at all costs. Not only were tears of blood flowing from the ancient dragon empress' eyes, but even her rainbow body was bleeding. In the starry sky, Dark Knight Trident's body trembled uncontrollably as he looked at the ancient dragon empress, who had unleashed her pain of slaughter again. His vision gradually blurred as a sense of powerlessness and indignation welled up in his heart. Why? Why did it become like this? He murmured to himself. For some reason, he suddenly thought back to when he had first met the ancient dragon empress in the evil dragon tribe. At the time, the ancient dragon empress was extremely beautiful and powerful. As the leader of the dragon clan, she had never lowered her head to any living creature because she was the noblest god in the world. Big Sister Dragon Empress, why do we have to fight other dragon tribes from time to time? 7-year-old Dark Knight Trident looked at the beautiful empress before him and mustered up his courage to ask. Perhaps it was because of this courage that his life changed. The ancient dragon empress patted Dark Knight Trident's head with a warm smile on her face. They're outsiders, and killing us will grant them the power of dragons. In order to avoid being killed, we have no choice but to resist. Can we just hide? Ever since my parents went to fight 2 years ago, they haven't returned. I really want them to come back. Dark Knight Trident didn't know anything. He just missed his parents. The ancient dragon empress' expression darkened. She naturally knew what it meant when Dark Knight Trident said that he hadn't returned after 2 years. There's nowhere for us to hide. This world is only so big. So where can we hide? If we don't want to be bullied, then we have to become stronger. Your parents are currently fighting outside in order to protect you, so they won't be able to come back for now. As long as you work hard to become stronger, you'll be able to see your parents in the future. The proud Great Empress told a small lie to Dark Knight Trident. The Great Empress' attitude was very good, so Dark Knight Trident wasn't scared at all. Then why do they refer to us as evil dragons when we're all from the dragon tribe? Because that way, they won't feel as pressured to kill us, the ancient dragon empress replied. That's outrageous. Then why don't we retort? We're not like that. Dark Knight Trident was indignant. Why should we retort? If they refer to us as evil dragons, Then we'll show them how evil we are. We'll show them that we're violent and bloodthirsty. And we'll show them that we're not to be messed with. That way, they'll have to think twice before they try to bully us. So if we pretend to be vicious, they'll be scared and think that we're not to be messed with. That way, they'll be able to protect themselves to a certain extent. Dark Knight tried and asked, "That's right, you're so smart. However, we can't just pretend to be vicious. We have to become extremely vicious in order to protect our family and friends." Are you interested in cultivating with me? In the face of the ancient dragon emperor's question, Dark Knight tried and was dumbstruck. After a few seconds, he replied with excitement. Really? Are you really willing to teach me? That's right. Your aptitude is very good, and you'll definitely become the hero of our tribe. The ancient dragon empress replied with a smile. Dark Knight Trident didn't know just how earth-shattering it was for the ancient dragon empress to accept him as a disciple. He was simply very happy to have such a beautiful and powerful woman to guide him in cultivation. Master, I'll definitely work hard. I'll become extremely powerful in the future. I'll protect my parents, my tribe, and I'll even become powerful enough to protect you. The ancient dragon empress couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing Dark Knight Trident's bold words. She patted his head. All right, I hope that day will come. After that, they chatted for a long time, but he had forgotten exactly what they were talking about. The only thing that remained in Dark Knight Trident's mind was her vibrant and enchanting smile. Time flew by. To this day, Dark Knight Trident really had become a powerful being of the evil dragon tribe. However, when the world was about to be destroyed and a battle that would decide the fate of the entire tribe erupted, he could only look on as the ancient dragon empress abandoned her Tao path to fight. That vow felt like it had only happened yesterday. Dark Knight Trident could only look on helplessly from the darkness. Master, I'm so useless, so useless. I told you I was going to become powerful enough to protect you. Dark Knight Trident murmured to himself as he clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. He looked at the bloody scenes unfolding before his eyes, and he felt as if there were invisible hands tearing at his heart. On the battlefield, blood stained the ancient dragon empress rainbow dragon scales red, and tears of blood flowed relentlessly. A red divine Tao domain instantly enshrouded Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan gripped onto Enlin's hand in that instant as she activated the turtle shell on her chest. Boom! A massive turtle projection suddenly appeared before enshrouding Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Black divine light seemed to have materialized to form a sturdy turtle shell. 99 different types of high-rank defensive spell techniques stacked upon the turtle shell. At the same time, the defensive Tao intent of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure also revolved around the turtle shell. It was as if Guyu had arrived in person. That's right, this was the Heavenly Star Dark Shell, gifted to them by High Priest Guyu of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. Upon activation, it could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures for 10 minutes. That's right, this was the Heavenly Star Dark Shell, gifted to them by High Priest Guyu of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. Upon activation, it could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures for 10 minutes. Chapter 1167. The Heavenly Star Dark Shell could even defend against attacks from Tao integration stage super mighty figures, so it was naturally able to defend against the ancient Dragon Empress attacks as well. The ancient Dragon Empress almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon seeing this, and she gritted her teeth. Why? Why is it a turtle shell again? Last time, she tried to kill Enlin, but Enlin had unleashed a green turtle shell. This time, she wanted to kill both Su Xiaolan and Enlin, but Su Xiaolan had unleashed an even more powerful turtle shell. This was a turtle shell with immensely powerful defensive prowess. Were they born in the year of the dragon or the tortoise? Ow! The ancient Dragon Empress let loose an almighty roar, and the red divine Tao light around her became even more powerful. Tears of blood flowed from her eyes again, and blood seeped out of her dragon scales at an even faster rate. The despair and grief of being slaughtered transformed into substantial power that crashed relentlessly against the inky black turtle shell. Phew! And Lin, thank you for your turtle shell. Su Xiaolan's features were a little pale, and she heaved a light sigh of relief. We can't let our guard down yet. Don't forget that the Heavenly Star Dark Shell only has a 10-minute time limit. And Lin transmitted his voice in a reminder. We have to think of a way out of this situation within 10 minutes. It's 30 minutes. This turtle shell can only be activated 3 times. Su Xiaolan transmitted her voice to correct Lin. She looked at the ancient dragon empress and thought to herself for a moment before transmitting her voice again. I have an idea. That dragon seems to be very tired from using this spell technique, and it's even bleeding. This type of spell technique should be very harmful to her, and she doesn't know about the time limit of our spell technique. Since she doesn't know the time limit of our spell, I want her to maintain this spell forever. And Lin transmitted his voice with excitement. You want to tire her to death? The two of them exchanged a silent glance. And Lin, what do we do? My turtle shell is about to collapse. A panicked expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she gripped her dragon sparrow sword tightly, as if she were preparing to fight to the death. Don't panic. Once the tortoise shell is broken, we'll run immediately. Can't you see how much blood it's bleeding? He must have been seriously injured. He won't be able to catch up to us. And Lin comforted. The ancient dragon empress divine Dao attacks were unable to corrode the turtle shell, and she was just about to take a rest, but she hesitated upon hearing the conversation between Lin and Su Xiaolan. If the tortoise shell spell was about to collapse, then it would be easier for her to use the pain of slaughter instead of stopping and then using it again. This was like crying loudly. Maintaining the state of crying loudly was indeed easier than stopping and crying loudly again. Of course, the premise was that the tortoise shell would disappear soon. Su Xiaolan had already said that their tortoise shells were about to crumble. Once their tortoise shells disappeared, the power of the divine Dao from the pain of slaughter would instantly explode upon them. But what if Su Xiaolan and Lin were acting as her? The ancient dragon empress' eyes narrowed as she instantly made an assessment. No, this possibility is very small. Such a powerful defensive spell technique definitely won't last for long. Even if they were acting, this tortoise shell defensive spell technique wouldn't last for more than a minute. The ancient dragon empress continued to shed tears of blood. Even though she had lowered the intensity of her spell technique, she still maintained the pain of slaughter. 1 minute passed. And Lin, I can't hold on any longer. Su Xiaolan clasped a hand over her chest and bit down on her lower lip, upon which blood trickled down the corner of her lips. It's all right. The ancient dragon empress is also about to collapse. We're going to be the final winner. And Lin wrapped his arm around Su Xiaolan's slender waist as he offered words of encouragement. Ancient dragon empress, why do I feel like I've been tricked? Why do I feel a little uncomfortable looking at this? This spell technique was far more powerful than she had imagined. Even though it might be a burden on the user, this was the first time she had seen such a powerful, life-saving trump card. Just hold on for a little longer. They were definitely going to collapse soon. Another minute passed. The ancient dragon empress was about to collapse. Her energy was starting to run out, and she was running out of blood. Could it be that she really had to be forced into a corner? The ancient dragon empress clenched her claws tightly, and her heart was filled with grief and indignation. Right at this moment, a powerful burst of power was already upon them from afar. The ancient dragon empress' worst fears had finally come true. She didn't have a chance to kill Lin and Su Xiaolan, and another powerful enemy had intervened. Ha ha ha! Lin, Su Xiaolan, are you two trapped here? I'm here to save you. A huge red and white dragon flew toward them from afar and chortled with glee. Lin and Su Xiaolan were both excited to see who it was. Senior Long Out Yin, you're finally here. And Lin extended an elated greeting. Be careful of the ancient dragon empress. She's extremely powerful, so don't let her red power of the divine Dao envelop you. Su Xiaolan cautioned. Don't worry, I know what kind of opponent I'm facing. Long Outyin stared at the ancient dragon empress with a scorching light in his eyes. The most powerful being of the evil dragon tribe, I've never seen you in action before. Let me witness your power this time. The red and white dragon roared as it swiped its claws through the air, upon which the white power of the divine Tao formed a spiral tornado that surged toward the ancient dragon empress. Long Outyin's power of the divine Tao was vibration, and all things could vibrate. Vibration was power. The space in the wake of the spiral tornado also began to tremor and twist, creating extremely terrifying shockwaves that pressed relentlessly against the ancient dragon empress divine Tao. Whoosh! Long Outyin's tornado easily pierced through the red divine Tao, but the ancient dragon empress managed to evade it with her extremely elusive movement techniques. What? Long Outyin's expression shifted, and he was forced to a halt. The red power of the divine Tao was very peculiar, and it didn't feel real at all. The rain of blood continued to fall. The ancient dragon empress turned toward Long Outyin, and her crimson eyes focused on him. The red power of the divine Tao extended outward and instantly enshrouded Long Outyin. Look out, Senior Long Outyin. Su Xiaolan immediately charged toward Long Outyin with Enlin in tow. The turtle shell also moved along with Su Xiaolan. That's right, she discovered that she could unleash this spell technique while moving at the same time, although her speed would be slowed down by the turtle shell for some reason. Long Outyin was enshrouded by the red power of the divine Tao, and he could feel his blood wailing, struggling, and boiling. And all of this was because of the invincible red power of the divine Tao. His power of the divine Tao was unable to keep the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao at bay. Long Outyin was given a huge fright by this scene. Thankfully, Su Xiaolan was nearby, and she was prepared in advance to provide reinforcements at the most critical moment. Get in here, Su Xiaolan yelled. Long Outyin transformed into his human form without any hesitation before crashing toward the turtle shell. The illusory figure opened a mouth and swallowed the middle-aged Long Outyin. Boom! Long Outyin crashed heavily into the turtle shell. His entire body was flushed with blood, and he panted heavily as his blood churned within his body, upon which he threw up another mouthful of blood. Huff, huff! That was close. I thought I was going to die. Long Outyin's heart was still pounding with fear. You really did almost die. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. I already warned you to be careful of the ancient dragon empress domain of true intent of the divine Tao. I didn't underestimate her anymore, but who would have thought that she would be even more terrifying than I had imagined? A wry smile appeared on Long Outyin's face. No one has ever seen her in battle. Who would have thought that she would be so terrifying? And Lin stroked his chin as he looked at the dragon tribe woman, shedding tears of blood. What kind of experience did she have to go through to attain such a terrifying divine Tao? Everything had returned to square one. The only difference was that Enlin and Su Xiaolan were hiding in the turtle shell. Now it was Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyin hiding in the turtle shell. Chapter 1168. What do we do now? We're going to die as soon as we get out. Long Outyin swallowed a high-rank spirit pill and asked as he recovered from his injuries. Don't panic. We have to stall for time and see who can last until the end. Can't you see that she's on the verge of collapse? Enlin replied. Outside the turtle shell, the ancient dragon empress red power of the divine Tao became smaller and smaller. Soon, even the turtle shell was unable to contain it, and it was slowly withdrawn into her body. The rain of blood in the sky stopped, and the ancient dragon empress blood tears also dried up. The ancient dragon empress also picked up an immortal pill and swallowed it in front of everyone upon seeing Long Outyin swallow the spirit pill. Long Outyin swallowed a spirit pill, so she swallowed an immortal pill. Everyone couldn't help but feel a lump in their throats upon seeing this. Should I say, as expected of the big boss? Even her pills were better than theirs. What do we do? The ancient dragon empress seems to have given up. Su Xiaolan was itching for action. Enlin replied in a matter-of-fact manner. We have to take this opportunity to escape. Long Out Yin. We have to take this opportunity to kill her. Everyone instantly fell silent. The two of them looked at each other. You still want to kill her, Senior? Have you forgotten how you were almost insta-killed just then? And Lin snapped. Running away won't solve the problem. This is a rare opportunity, so we should take her down while she's down. Otherwise, the next time we meet, when she recovers, we'll have even less of a chance. Long Out Yin analyzed. We should find more powerful teammates and team up before discussing our strategy. And Lin insisted on his decision. The two of them had conflicting opinions, so they turned to look at Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan hesitated for a moment before transmitting her voice to Enlin. The turtle shell can still be used 2 more times. Should we give it another try? If worst comes to worst, we can just hide in the turtle shell. Sure, but don't tell Senior Long Out Yin about this. Don't let him think that he has no way out. He can only unleash greater power by cutting off all means of retreat, and Lin transmitted his voice. A moment later, Su Xiaolan looked at Enlin and pleaded, I think Senior Long Out Yin's words make more sense. Enlin, let's listen to Senior Long Out Yin's suggestion. Enlin sighed. Fine, I'll listen to you this once. The three of them made their decision. Long Out Yin felt a little proud of himself. He had won the vote among the three of them. Little did he know that Enlin and Su Xiaolan had already colluded in secret. They had even arranged how he would fight with all his might and how he would salvage the situation if he failed. Then, the three of them began to secretly discuss the battle plan. The ancient Dragon Empress was recovering her blood essence as quickly as possible. At the same time, she was patiently waiting for her turtle shell defensive spell technique to expire. But before the spell could finish, the turtle shell suddenly cracked open. Boom! Suddenly, the space within a 5-kilometer radius began to tremble violently. An extremely powerful shock wave crashed into the ancient Dragon Empress body, and just the shock waves alone pulverized the earth behind her for over 10 kilometers. Long Out Yin struck first, and he unleashed his full power right from the get-go. The ancient Dragon Empress was knocked flying by the sudden attack, and blood began to seep from her dragon scales again, perhaps because her internal injuries hadn't healed yet. At this moment, Su Xiaolan had already descended from the sky with her dragon sparrow sword in hand. Holy flames surged into the heavens, and a gargantuan vermilion bird instantly materialized before crashing down upon a rainbow dragon with a boundless holy might. Boom! Flames exploded, sending scorching waves over 10,000 meters in all directions. The rainbow dragon roared as it plummeted to the ground. On the ground below, Enlin slit his wrist, and blood essence gushed forth as his consciousness, which rivaled that of a return to void pinnacle stage being injected into a crimson cross in a frenzy. A series of inky black chains rose into the sky before binding the plummeting dragon. At the same time, an extremely powerful sealing power erupted from the cross. A crimson pillar of light erupted forth for over 5 kilometers, enshrouding the dragon's body and consciousness. Blood Soul Cross Seal. And Lin naturally didn't think that he would be able to truly seal this dragon tribe mighty figure. He unleashed his fire god mode and instantly appeared behind the rainbow dragon before tossing a large water ball at her. A boundless gravitational force surged forth. The ancient dragon empress roared with rage, but her body had already crashed heavily to the ground. The Blood Soul Cross and the large water ball combined to seal this terrifying dragon tribe mighty figure into the ground. And Lin didn't let his guard down, and the image of a golden eye appeared on his forehead as he unleashed his divine plunder technique again. He was going to take away the ancient dragon empress' extremely dangerous ability. Golden ripples instantly enshrouded the rainbow dragon. The ancient dragon empress ability began to appear in his mind. And Lin hadn't even had a chance to choose a spell technique when an emotion imbued with the struggle and insanity of an entire tribe suddenly erupted forth, threatening to explode his head. The ancient dragon empress power was far too peculiar, and Lin couldn't help but wail in agony. In that instant, He really did feel like he was going to explode from his power, and he was forced to stop unleashing his divine plunder technique. Erg, and Lin's blood churned, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. The tearing sensation in his head was still spreading. He had only come into contact with the ancient Dragon Empress power, and he had almost died. I can sense that you're trying to come into contact with my power. The ancient Dragon Empress spoke in a cold voice. A chill ran down Lin's spine, and he instinctively leaped away from the ancient Dragon Empress back to open up some distance. Can you sense my power? The ancient Dragon Empress stared at Lin. Her dragon body became brighter and brighter, and a rainbow divine Tao light suddenly erupted forth. It was extremely dazzling and beautiful, as if it were imbued with countless possibilities. However, Lin could sense boundless grief and rage from it. The ancient Dragon Empress' ethereal wings slowly withdrew, and the light became more and more dazzling, but her body became smaller and smaller, and her presence became more and more insignificant. Lin's heart jolted with shock. He discovered that the Blood Soul Cross was gradually losing its target, and even the large water ball had lost its target. "Look out," he suddenly yelled. Bam! A violent explosion erupted. A dazzling rainbow light suddenly appeared before his eyes. A beautiful dragon tribe woman in an imperial robe with her entire body enshrouded in rainbow light reached toward Lin's heart with her hands transformed into sharp claws. Lin was not expecting the ancient Dragon Empress to transform into a human through some special method to evade the ancient Dragon Empress oppression. He only had a chance to turn to the side before the sharp claws tore a massive gash into his chest. Lin, Su Xiaolan rushed to his aid and forced the ancient Dragon Empress back with a sword strike. The ancient Dragon Empress stood silently in the distance. Her right hand was stained with blood, but she didn't forget to apply the blood on her fingertip to her lips, painting her lips a bloodthirsty red. She looked at Lin with a meaningful smile on her face. "This is the first time a living being has tried to come into contact with my power. But if you want to come into contact with my power, you'll have to experience the pain my tribe has gone through." Chapter 1169. You've already unleashed your most powerful techniques, said your lines, and build up your emotions. But it's not a good idea to hold back your most powerful techniques, is it? Lin tried to persuade her. Bolts of crimson, lightning roared in the sky. These words were not just directed at Lin. Instead, they were an accusation against heaven and earth. Lin, this was a result of being oppressed and tortured. In this hellish world, countless living beings had accumulated countless emotions in order to put up a frenzied resistance. It was as if the ancient Dragon Empress were interrogating the heavens. Lin continued, "As long as you stop your plan, I can help you find another way to resolve this problem." A tragic smile appeared on her face. "What have my brethren done wrong? Why do we have to endure all of this? Why do we have to be trapped here? I want to protect them, but I'm stuck at the Return to Void pinnacle stage. I can clearly progress to the Tao integration stage, but the laws of heaven and earth prevent me from making any further breakthroughs." "Senior, you're right, but it's still a useless statement," Su Xiaolan protested. The atmosphere was a little peculiar. "All right, let's not waste any more time." Lin extended a hand. "Come at me. Use your most powerful technique to see if you can break through my defenses. This is the last turtle shell spell technique." Lin's expression darkened. "I've said so much, and your answer is a turtle shell?" The ancient Dragon Empress emotions were suddenly thrown into disarray by Lin's words. One city after another has been destroyed, and tens of thousands of brethren have been slaughtered. Every time an enemy descends, we face the threat of extinction. We don't know how powerful or brutal the next enemy will be, so we can only struggle and resist. In the end, we've been forced to become true evil dragons. Her words were like a piece of **T. "I can't," Lin replied in a straightforward manner. "Due to the special laws of the power of dragons, you dragon tribe cultivators treat this place as a hunting ground for you to improve yourselves. However, do you know that this is our home?" The rainbow-colored divine light in the world surged even more violently, as if it was about to break through this world. The ancient dragon empress immediately shook her head. Cut the crap. The passageway is about to be opened, and our tribe has been waiting for this day for a very long time. This is our only chance, and I can't miss it. No. Enlin was very determined. Su Xiaolan moved closer to Enlin. At the same time, she asked Long Outyin to move closer to her so that he could activate his heavenly astral dark armor a second time if anything happened. The ancient dragon empress shook her head. I'm fine. Don't worry, I can hold it in. I'll release my spell technique all at once after your defensive spell technique is over, and I'll feel better. Sigh, to be honest, I was planning to fight the ancient dragon empress to the death. I didn't think that you would be able to use this defensive spell technique. Long Outyin sighed with emotion. This is a cursed world. The two sides were in a deadlock. Xiaolan, activate your turtle shell first. The ancient dragon empress has been holding back her attack for so long, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to activate my defenses in time. Enlin said in a faint voice. Enlin felt a sense of security. I can't empathize with the suffering of your tribe. I only have one simple thought in my mind, and that is to survive. No need, the ancient dragon empress replied in a straightforward manner. We haven't done anything, yet we've been labeled as evil dragons. You've slaughtered our brethren in a frenzy just to increase your own power. We don't want to fight, but this is our home. Where can we hide? The ancient dragon empress words and mysterious smile made everyone extremely wary. It's true. The invincible turtle shell appeared again, enshrouding Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyin within. Enlin was speechless. Senior, you're just spouting nonsense. To you, this is a place of trials, but to us. The dragon empress pointed up into the sky as tears of blood flowed from her eyes again. This is the hell that has tortured us for countless years. What's wrong with us wanting to leave this place? The ancient dragon empress looked at Enlin, and rainbow divine light suddenly engulfed heaven and earth. Everything within this space was transformed into a vibrant, picturesque scene. It's quite clear that the ancient dragon empress has to pay a heavy price to unleash this spell technique, and it can't be withdrawn. Otherwise, she would have attacked us already. Long Outyin suddenly spoke. The passageway that you've forcefully opened up can only allow your tribe to enter, right? Seeing as that's the case, I have to stop you. Otherwise, we'll all be buried here along with this entire world. I want to convince you with words, Enlin said. The dragon empress couldn't help but ask, how are you going to stop me if you don't come out? Su Xiaolan and Enlin. How we get out of this? It's very simple. After the ancient dragon empress unleashes her spell technique, we'll remove our turtle shells and attack her as a group. Long Outyin suggested. Long Outyin's legs trembled slightly. There's nothing to be afraid of. If she wants to fight, then we'll fight. Really? The ancient dragon empress' lips twitched. Rumble. Okay. Su Xiaolan nodded obediently and immediately activated the heavenly star dark armor again. The ancient dragon empress smiled and didn't say anything. How shameless. The ancient dragon empress was enraged. Enlin and Su Xiaolan spoke in unison. Senior, now is not the time to think about this. Let's think about how to break out of this situation. Enlin changed the topic. Don't you feel uncomfortable holding it in? Su Xiaolan said considerately. Enlin and the others didn't want to emerge from the turtle shell. As long as the turtle shell remained, the ancient dragon empress wouldn't be willing to unleash her most powerful attack. He had painstakingly used the heavenly star dark armor once, and his defenses were all set up, but now he was telling him that he wasn't going to attack anymore. Ancient dragon empress, this is the confidence I've given myself. Don't doubt just how powerful a soul formation stage mighty figure like you is. Enlin stood with his back straight, and a domineering aura began to emanate from his body. Ancient dragon empress, did he have to say it so bluntly? Where was his dignity as the empress of the evil dragon tribe? Then continue to use the turtle shell. Long Outyin replied without hesitation. Do you accept my offer? I can help you find another way, and you can swear a vow right here and now. And Lin continued. The ancient dragon empress turned to look at the crumbling barrier in the distance with a distant and profound expression. The ancient dragon empress, before I say that, can you come out of your turtle shell? The ancient dragon empress crossed her arms before her chest. You said you're going to stop me, so can you come out of your turtle shell? This was the first time she had ever seen such a shameless enemy. Not only in Lin, but even Su Xiaolan felt like 10,000 mythological beasts were stampeding over her heart. Hee, who gave you that confidence? The ancient dragon empress couldn't help but burst into laughter. Mr. Su Xiaolan's treasure sure is powerful. Even the ancient dragon empress' most powerful attack is useless against it, Long Outyin said. Long Outyin replied, I saw that the atmosphere was heavy, so I wanted to lighten the mood. But the turtle shell can only last for 10 minutes. If she doesn't unleash her attack after 10 minutes, Su Xiaolan transmitted her voice to him. Chapter 1170. Lin and Su Xiaolan were both reinvigorated by Long Outyin's bold words. This dragon tribe mighty figure really was a brave and battle-hungry, powerful being. How exactly do we do this? Senior Long Outyin, you rush over and interrupt the ancient dragon emperor's spell technique. Then Su Xiaolan and I will find an opportunity to land the killing blow on the ancient dragon empress. And Lin suggested, Long Outyin, we can actually discuss this in more detail. He was starting to regret his bold statement. As a man who had survived through mountains of corpses and seas of blood, he was naturally not afraid of battle. However, the ancient dragon empress was different. Her power was simply far too peculiar. It was not something that normal opponents could compare to. Even if Long Outyin were to die, he wanted to die fighting to his heart's content, not dying for some unknown reason. 6 minutes passed. The three of them were still discussing their battle plan. A commotion suddenly erupted outside. In the sky above, crimson lightning roared in a frenzy, and the rainbow divine Tao light in the air had already been condensed to the extreme. The power of emotions permeated the air. It was gradually becoming unstable. Lin and the others turned to look at the ancient dragon empress. Holy F***CK. What's wrong? Ancient dragon empress. Lin immediately let loose a string of expletives upon seeing the ancient dragon empress expression. The ancient dragon empress' face was flushed with rage, and the veins on her body bulged. White smoke wafted from her body, and her colorful dragon horns trembled uncontrollably. Her crimson eyes were bulging with rage, and she looked like she was about to explode. The ancient dragon empress was on the verge of breaking down upon hearing Lin's words. Your turtle shell, why hasn't it disappeared yet? It had been 6 minutes. She had waited for 6 whole minutes. What did it feel like to unleash a powerful technique for 6 whole minutes? That feeling, the ancient dragon empress felt like a weaker mighty figure would have already exploded on the spot. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before replying with a serious expression. Our turtle shell seems to be able to last for 2 hours, right? That's not right. If she continues to attack, it might not last for an hour. And Lin retorted with a serious expression. Ancient dragon empress. The space tremored violently. The ancient dragon empress' eyes were filled with despair. After all, the truth was that the sturdy tortoise shell was like a mountain pressing down on her heart, that she could not see any hope. Regardless of whether she believed the words of the two of them, they had given her a certain degree of hint and blow, becoming the last straw that broke her back, finally causing her to collapse. A muffled groan suddenly rang out. Rumble. Heaven and earth changed drastically. The rainbow divine Tao was imbued with boundless energy, and it surged toward the massive turtle shell like a vast ocean, instantly reducing everything in the surrounding space to nothingness. That power seemed to be able to penetrate everything, as if it could break through everything. It was as if an entire race was slaughtering and killing each other in purgatory, or as if the dragon race wanted to destroy the world in a frenzy. The power and true intent imbued within the spell technique struck fear into Lin and the others' hearts, even though they were separated by the turtle shell. They knew that if they were to face this attack from outside the turtle shell, they would definitely be done for. Everything within a radius of several dozen kilometers had already been annihilated by the terrifying energy. However, the tortoise shell was like a stabilizing pillar in the sea. No matter how the tortoise shell was attacked, it didn't collapse, nor did it shatter. This was how powerful the heavenly star dark shell was. The ancient dragon empress had been accumulating power for a long time, and she finally couldn't hold back any longer. The attack she unleashed was truly earth-shattering, and shockwaves of energy swept outward for over 50 kilometers. Even from over 500 kilometers away, the dazzling divine Tao light could still be seen. What a beautiful technique! Dark Knight Trident murmured to himself as he looked at the dazzling rainbow technique in the distance. At the center of the 99 pillars of light, over 30,000 evil dragons all turned toward the direction in which the divine Tao light was erupting. Some of them bowed toward the distance, while others knelt down in that direction. They knew that the ancient dragon empress was putting her life on the line for their future. There were many ways for them to express their reverence and anticipation, but none of them prayed to the heavens as they hated this world to the core. The inky black hole was slowly transforming into a vast expanse of nothingness. Gradually, it began to take on a sense of space, as if that space had pierced through a certain flaw and arrived at another place. Under the relentless barrage of the 99 pillars of light and the double-headed spear, the destruction of the world became more and more severe. The cracks in the sky extended outward like a spider web, and they had already covered an area of over 50 kilometers, and they were only continuing to accelerate. Laws were crumbling, space was collapsing, and the power of destruction was wreaking merciless havoc over the entire world. At the location wherein Lin and the others were, the divine Tao light disappeared, and the terrifying energy also gradually dissipated. The massive turtle shell was as indestructible as a mountain within a crater. Not far away, the ancient dragon empress features were deathly pale, and her aura was fluctuating as she panted heavily. She had clearly been completely drained by that attack. She immediately swallowed another immortal pill in front of everyone. Holy F***CK. She's taken another pill. I can't tolerate this. Let's kill her while she's weakened. Lin yelled in a panicked voice. Su Xiaolan deactivated the turtle shell before charging toward the ancient dragon empress within Lin. Long Outyin stomped through the air, and the vibrating power of the divine Tao compressed the space around him, instantly granting him an extremely terrifying propulsion force. This instantaneous burst of speed allowed Long Outyin to reach the ancient dragon empress before Lin and the others. Consecutive space, shattering fists. White light erupted from Long Outyin's fists as the vibrating power of the divine Tao was imbued to the extreme, and he hurtled toward the ancient dragon empress at an extremely fast speed. The ancient dragon empress expression remained calm as her hands danced through the air like butterflies, unleashing extremely intricate techniques to keep all of Long Outyin's attacks at bay. The ancient dragon empress was adept at using her peculiar power of the divine Tao, but that didn't mean that she was weak in melee combat. Haha, this is awesome. Long Outyin chortled with glee as he unleashed a relentless barrage of punches, each of which was powerful enough to tear through mountains, seas, and space itself. The kind of battle he yearned for was precisely this kind of hearty punch to the flesh. The ancient dragon empress palms clashed with Long Outyin's, and each and every one of their attacks created shockwaves that pulverized the ground within a radius of over a kilometer. The two of them had exchanged over 100 blows in the blink of an eye. The crater in the ground around them was mercilessly destroyed by the two of them again. In her feeble state, the ancient dragon empress was able to withstand Long Outyin's punches, but she was at a slight disadvantage and would definitely lose in a prolonged battle. At this moment, the extremely powerful Lin and Su Xiaolan had also rushed over, and they surrounded her from 3 different directions to cut off her path of retreat. Each of them possessed the power to battle the ancient Dragon Empress on their own. With the three of them attacking at once, their chances of victory were extremely high. This was the best opportunity for the three of them to kill the ancient Dragon Empress. Chapter 1171. Just like that, the people who were running for their lives strangely lost their sense of direction. They immediately began to flee into the distance. Let this piece of sky be broken for me. Hedgehog, long, outyin, these were flower petals, but they were inconceivably sharp. Even Long Out-Yin's vibrational power was unable to diminish them by much, allowing them to pierce through Long Out-Yin's spatial shattering divine defense. Red Divine Tao light instantly enshrouded Enlin's trio. Not only him, but even Long Out-Yin and Su Xiaolan were also crushed by the bear paws. A rain of roses fell from the sky again. Each and every one of the red petals was imbued with extremely dense power of the divine Tao. But they didn't harm anyone, as if they were harmless flower petals dancing in the wind. A clear and ethereal voice rang out. On the battlefield, there was a crimson Mei Gue evil dragon, a pitch-black Luanyu evil dragon, and a Huan Meng evil dragon with gargantuan wings and an ethereal body. Three top-rate dragon tribe powerful beings had surrounded Enlin and the others. The ancient dragon empress landed lightly on the ground in her rainbow imperial robe with a calm expression. Don't let them get away. They can't be allowed to live. All of a sudden, the divine Tao light from the red flower petals lit up brightly. They twisted and warped to form a series of sharp spikes that pierced through space toward the three of them. For some reason, the world Enlin and the others were situated in suddenly became a strange and twisted world, as if they were an abstract painting with no substance or sense of space. Su Xiaolan was in a slightly better state. She had unleashed her holy flame to protect herself, which melted most of the spikes, and only an extremely small portion of them managed to puncture her snowy white skin. Now it's those people's turn. Dark Night Trident's expression darkened. They made Master pay such a heavy price. They must die. Just as they were speaking, a dazzling light suddenly erupted from the ground that the three of them were flying through. The scorching pillar of light crashed into the vibrating white barrier, and the temperature began to plummet. The energy within the barrier was also completely dispelled in the end. The auras of the three evil dragons erupted forth, and they immediately launched attacks toward Enlin and the others. Sky-shaking divine control. Long Out-Yin clapped his hands in the air. A destructive energy suddenly erupted from the ground in a radius of 10 miles. A blazing pillar of light that was hot enough to instantly melt metal soared into the sky, and right in the middle of it all was Enlin and the others who were running away. Armei Gue Evil Dragon, Luanyu Evil Dragon, and Huan Meng Evil Dragon all used their life-shortening secret techniques, but the results were good. Apollo of the Western Dragon Forest died in battle, and Hades fled. There was no need to say anything. Just by exchanging glances, the three of them got the same answer. A shock wave that continued to vibrate and surge in the surrounding space was instantly formed. It's not a little bad, it's very bad, Enlin said with a serious expression. This strange power engulfed Long Out-Yin, Enlin, and Su Xiaolan. It was as if a white, vibrating wall had appeared around them. There are still other return to void final stage mighty figures who haven't arrived yet. In order to maintain a safe distance, the evil dragons won't dare to pursue us too far away. All we have to do is put as much distance as possible between us and the formation as we can, Long Out-Yin roared. A smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face as she shed tears of blood. The pain of slaughter. Have you seen my little bear? This is Huan Meng Evil Dragon's illusionary domain. It can make imaginary things into reality. For example, these ghostly beings and strange spaces are all constructed from its consciousness power of the divine Tao. Long Out-Yin launched a fist toward the ancient dragon empress, knocking her back for over a kilometer. However, he didn't continue to pursue her. Instead, he turned toward Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Come and play with me. My king will lend you a hand. They couldn't even tell which side was ahead and which side was behind. The earth suddenly became scorching hot, and it seemed as if there were countless living beings wailing in agony. Senior Long Ao Yin is right. And Lin chimed in with excitement. He was feeling the best. His body of the war god was extremely tough, and he really was able to keep all of the weakened spikes at bay. Her words are the highest command to the entire evil dragon tribe. Not only that, but the scimitar also sliced through the air and shattered the massive bear paw that was trapping the three of them. Heaven and earth reappeared. At this moment, crimson roses suddenly began to fall from the sky. Three returned to void final stage evil dragons circled in the air, obscuring the entire sky with their massive bodies. However, before everyone had a chance to celebrate, they were greeted by the sight of a woman with tears of blood flowing from her eyes. Thus, the three of them were crushed beneath the bear paw. My power of dragons is very delicious. Do you want to eat me? And Lin stood up with a smile on his face, and the dark divine saber flew obediently back into his hand as the vast power of his consciousness swept through the surrounding space. The little dragon's cavernous mouth was already upon them, and a black scimitar suddenly appeared. The power of the Dark Phoenix was imbued with the power to annihilate all things, and it instantly sliced the little dragon in half. His voice had only just fallen when a gargantuan black bear paw suddenly fell from the sky. It was gargantuan, and it was as if a divine mountain were crashing down from the sky. Why didn't you say so earlier? If I had told you that this thing could be broken through using my consciousness techniques, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. After all, I'm an all-round badass. He looked around at the bizarre heaven and earth before raising his black saber high into the air, upon which an inky black saber projection pierced through the entire heavens. And Lin used his fire god mode to clash with the bear paw, but he was completely crushed by the bear paw, as if he were facing an indestructible divine mountain. He was only good at melee combat, and his consciousness was just barely strong enough to resist the corrosion of the Huan Meng evil dragon's consciousness. So he yelled for help from a rookie return to Void Stage Cultivator and a Soul Formation Stage Cultivator. The situation had instantly changed from Lin and the others surrounding the ancient Dragon Empress to being surrounded by the evil dragons. Which one of you has the most powerful consciousness? Hurry up and release it. Long Ao Yin yelled for help. The ancient Dragon Empress was surrounded by three people. One twisted little dragon after another began to appear, and all of them had blissful smiles on their faces or peculiar expressions on their faces as they slowly flew toward the three of them. The little dragon suddenly opened its gargantuan mouth that was completely disproportionate to its body before pouncing toward Lin and the others. That strange world was shattered by Lin's saber strike. His entire body was then punctured like a porcupine. Three extremely terrifying auras quickly approached from afar, causing Lin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Ao Yin's expressions to shift at the same time. Rose, a gentle voice that was filled with love sounded. Another small dragon covered in rotting flesh smiled as it spoke. Its voice constantly tickled his ears, as if a ghost was blowing in his ears. Why do you always have spikes? A voice that was filled with love and a hint of resentment sounded. Soft murmurs began to enter his ears, like a nightmare following him. If the three of them were attacking the ancient Dragon Empress, they would have a good chance of winning. However, if three Return to Void final stage enemies were added to the mix, then they would have no chance of winning. Let heaven and earth be reduced to hell. A red light flashed through the black dragon's eyes. They were clearly trying to negotiate. Should they fight or retreat? Within the surveillance satellite, a smile appeared on Dark Knight Trident's face. Don't panic. Let's continue onward. The power of those spikes has already been significantly weakened by my defenses, so we can keep them at bay. Long Ao Yin roared as he charged forward. However, that wasn't the end of the attack. An ethereal, dreamy voice sounded. The pitch-black saber radiance roared as it descended, stirring up the entire world and shattering it into pieces. Lin, things don't look good. Su Xiaolan spoke. Chapter 1172. The red power of the divine Tao instantly descended. Never would Lin and the others have thought that they would have to face the unfathomable power of the final boss after breaking through Huan Meng Evil Dragon's spell technique with such difficulty. Was the ancient Dragon Empress not tired from unleashing this technique? She was going to force them to their deaths. In that instant, an unimaginable power suddenly erupted from Long Outyen's body, and he instantly tore through space to appear before the ancient Dragon Empress like a bolt of lightning. If he didn't fight with everything he had, then he would never win. So he had to fight for a chance at survival. Void vibrating explosive fist. Long Outyen roared as his fist, which was imbued with the power of the vibrating divine Tao, crashed mercilessly toward the ancient Dragon Emperor's face. He knew where his chance at survival was in the face of this red power of the divine Tao. Spell techniques could churn one's blood and erase one's vitality, which was very terrifying, but there was a short interval between when the spell technique was unleashed. Long Outyen was able to survive the pain of slaughter as he had entered the Heavenly Star Dark Shell's turtle shell during that short interval. Seeing as there was a gap in this spell technique, he could use this gap to retaliate against the ancient Dragon Emperor's spell technique. Heaven and earth trembled violently as his fist tore through the air. The fist hadn't even landed, but the spatial tremor had already uprooted the ground within a radius of several dozen kilometers. Long Outyen was already bleeding from all of his orifices, but his fist continued onward with unstoppable force. The ancient Dragon Empress could not ignore this punch. She crossed her arms in front of her to defend herself against Long Outyen's attack. Long Outyen's fist was unleashed in a dire situation, and the power behind it was extremely terrifying. The ancient Dragon Empress' arms were instantly bent, and the sound of bones cracking rang out. Boom! Space tremored and exploded. The ancient Dragon Empress was knocked flying for over 10 kilometers by Long Outyen's punch, and she threw up blood as she tumbled to the ground. The power of the pain of slaughter divine Tao also dissipated. Su Xiaolan held the turtle shell in her hand, and she was completely dumbstruck upon seeing this. Long Outyen is bad *SS. And Lin couldn't help but exclaim. As expected, it was no joke to be able to unleash such power in a dire situation. Long Outyen had broken the ancient Dragon Empress' nightmarish spell technique on his own and blasted the ancient Dragon Empress flying. All of the evil dragons who were waiting for Enlin and the others to be slain were dumbstruck upon seeing this. The muscles all over Long Outyen's body turned red and trembled. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. His body swayed slightly, and he was about to collapse. Enlin rushed over and supported Long Outyen before stuffing the final 7th grade immortal pill into Long Outyen's mouth. Then, he ran into the distance with Long Outyen in tow. The 3 evil dragons came to their senses and gave chase. Don't let them escape. They must die for daring to harm our master. Although they had escaped death, Long Outyen was temporarily unable to fight, and they were still in grave danger. The ancient Dragon Empress stood up again, and her bent arm cracked and popped before returning to normal in the blink of an eye. She took a step forward and was about to perform a space jump when a sudden backlash caused her body to tremble and blood to seep out of the corner of her mouth. It's time to replenish my blood. A smile appeared on her face as she swallowed another immortal pill before chasing after Enlin. Enlin felt a headache coming on as he looked at the evil dragons chasing after him relentlessly. F***CK. They've already chased for over 500 kilometers, and they're still not giving up? He was now close to 1,500 kilometers away from the 99 Pillars of Light, but they're still chasing after me? Aren't they afraid of being taken advantage of by other enemies? However, unbeknownst to Enlin, the cultivation satellites in the sky could actually survey the situation within a radius of over 5,000 kilometers. Hee, you won't get away. Meiguei evil dragons aura soared explosively, and it unleashed a mystic technique that reduced its lifespan to accelerate further and further, quickly catching up to Enlin and the others. Rose Funeral. Meiguei evil dragon opened its mouth and exhaled in a gentle yet sorrowful manner. White rose petals swept through the air, each of which was imbued with the power to freeze space and slice through all things. They were still several hundred meters away from Enlin and the others when the space around them began to congeal. This was a funeral created by the rose, and it buried everything. Everything within it began to slow down. Enlin was very familiar with this type of power. He placed Long Outyin on the brick before yelling, "Lend me your fire." Su Xiaolan immediately grasped onto Enlin's hand. Crimson inscriptions began to appear on the backs of their hands as the mutant blood phoenix's divine flames erupted. If it was difficult for one person to defend against a return to void final stage mighty figure's attack, then they should try together. That's right, this was their combination technique, falling star technique. Regardless of whether it was the growth in the purity of his flames or the growth in Su Xiaolan's cultivation base, both of them significantly enhanced the power of these explosions. The crimson light was like a falling star, and it exploded with a resounding boom, creating a falling star technique. Boundless light and heat erupted from the explosion, instantly melting Mei Gui Evil Dragon's white rose into nothingness. That terrifying explosion of flames even sent the three pursuing evil dragons flying. How? Why are these enemies so difficult to deal with? Mei Gui Evil Dragon was the most severely injured, and its crimson body had been charred black. Don't get complacent. This is a powerful being that even forced the ancient Dragon Empress to step in. We have to use our full power, Luan Yu Evil Dragon said. Use our full power? Mei Gui Evil Dragon shot a glance at Luan Yu Evil Dragon. Can you use your Blood Ignition Mystic technique before you say that? Among the three dragons, she was the only one who had used her Blood Ignition Mystic technique, and this dragon was shamelessly encouraging her to use her full power. Wait a bit longer. I overexerted my Blood Ignition Mystic technique when we were killing Apollo, and I'm still recovering from it. Luan Yu Evil Dragon explained in a flat voice as it chased after Enlin. There's actually no need for us to do anything now. Huan Ming Evil Dragon spoke in an ethereal voice as it flapped its illusionary wings and looked toward Enlin and the others. A rainbow light flashed before Enlin and the others. A gorgeous empress in an imperial robe appeared again, and tears of blood began to flow from her eyes. Enlin and Su Xiaolan almost cursed at the sight of her. Oh no, Enlin was already swearing with despair on his face. You're King doing it again. Do you have that much blood to shed? This was the first time he had ever seen an empress who was willing to sacrifice herself for the future of her tribe. He could reluctantly accept that his enemy could use such a freakish spell technique, but he couldn't help but curse out loud when his enemy could continue to use such a freakish spell technique. This was King cheating. Just as Enlin was cursing in his heart, a rain of blood began to fall upon the vast earth. The red power of the divine Tao, which represented the pain of slaughter, began to proliferate before enshrouding Enlin and the others. Feel the pain. The ancient dragon empress smiled as tears of blood flowed from her eyes. Her voice had only just fallen when a black-robed figure suddenly appeared before Enlin and the others. Let me feel your pain first. The black-robed figure spread, opened his arms with a smile. Chapter 1173. A black-robed man that no one had detected suddenly appeared before everyone. He spread open his arms, as if he really was going to experience the ancient Dragon Empress power. Even though he said that, he still materialized a semi-transparent black crystal barrier around himself, Enlin, and the others. However, this barrier was unable to keep the ancient Dragon Empress power of the Divine Tao at bay. The red power of the Divine Tao crashed into the semi-transparent crystal barrier and passed through it as if it were nothing. A hint of pride and sorrow appeared in the ancient Dragon Empress' eyes upon seeing this. In this place, there was no one who could resist her power. A peculiar power fused into the man's body, and his blood began to churn and churn. Su Xiaolan's expression shifted drastically and she was just about to unleash her heavenly star dark shell one last time when her hand was pressed down by Lin, and she faltered momentarily. So that's how it is. I can feel your sorrow and suffering, as well as your pain and struggle. This power is very special. It's a combination of power, experience, spirit, fortune, and even your hatred toward the curse of this world and your determination to break through everything. You are a good leader. The man's eyes focused, and the black crystal barrier he had unleashed began to glow with a divine Tao light as its internal structure began to transform. However, right before everyone's astonished eyes, the ancient Dragon Empress red light crashed into the black crystal barrier, only to be completely blocked, as if it had crashed into an impenetrable fortress. It was blocked. Su Xiaolan was a little incredulous. Little Xiao is bad *SS. And Lin let loose a cry of surprise. A faint smile appeared on the man's face. How could I allow someone to hurt Master right under my nose? That's right. The man who had suddenly appeared was none other than Lin's disciple, Xiao Zhe. And Lin made his way forward and wiped the blood from Xiao Zhe's nose and lips with a sympathetic expression. Wipe the blood off your face before you say anything like that. Xiao Zhe, I've finally progressed to the Return to Void final stage, and I'm just flexing. Congratulations on attaining the power of the Divine Tao. Xiaoze, you're so awesome. Su Xiaolan praised as she rubbed Xiaoze's head. Xiaoze was greatly praised by his mistress. He smiled in embarrassment, his face full of shyness. So you're Xiao Zhe from the 4-9 Immortal Sect. I've heard so much about you. You really are a young hero. Long Outyan also offered a string of compliments. I'm from the primordial dragon race. I can even be your ancestor. I'm not some youth. Xiaoze retorted with a smile. Long Outyan, why do you pretend to be a young man when you talk to them, but pretend to be an ancestor when you talk to me? Long Outyan felt so stifled. To think that there are Return to Void stage mighty figures who can resist my power. The ancient Dragon Empress was still shedding tears of blood, but a complex expression had appeared on her face. Who would have thought that the person who understands my power the most would be my enemy? Xiaoze looked up at the crimson rain falling from the sky. My divine Tao pursues the path of the most powerful defense. It should be a flexible defense that can change according to the type of attack it receives. Even if the passage of time strikes, I'm going to create an eternal shield that will protect everything I want to protect. Your divine Tao is very powerful. The ancient Dragon Empress heaved a forlorn sigh before wiping away the tears of blood from her face with a rainbow sleeve. The proud and aloof Empress of the Dragon Tribe lowered her head and her eyes dimmed. There was a rare, pitiful expression on her face. Perhaps it was because she was too tired, or perhaps it was because of the series of events that had taken place. She was struck by a sense of helplessness. Both of you, why are your shells so hard? The ancient Dragon Empress finally voiced her frustration. The rain of blood stopped. She stopped unleashing her pain of slaughter spell technique. This type of spell technique was very lethal to those who didn't understand it. However, Xiaoze had analyzed it and found a way to counter it, so it was no longer a threat to his enemies. I have one more question. How did you manage to approach us without us noticing? The ancient Dragon Empress was still perplexed. Xiaoze was more than happy to answer her questions. After all, flexing was a very satisfying experience. My Tao of defense is not as simple as you think it is. After all, not being discovered by my enemies is also a form of defense, right? Xiaoze chuckled. That's right, his power of the divine Tao could change the element of his body to conceal itself. He was able to use his power of the divine Tao to alter the defensive element of his divine Tao according to the spell techniques of his enemies. This was a clear indication that his power of the divine Tao was extremely flexible and malleable. The three evil dragons and the ancient Dragon Empress had all of their attention focused on Lin and the others. So how were they supposed to detect a being who was approaching them using his power of the divine Tao? Just like that, at the most critical moment, Xiaoze attained his divine Tao and made a spectacular entrance, turning the tables in their favor. Little Xiao, what do we do now? Do we fight them or keep running? and Lin felt like he should listen to his disciple's opinion. We definitely won't be able to beat them in a fight. All of them are veteran return to void final stage mighty figures, and it's already very impressive that I was able to defend myself against their attacks. Xiaoza was definitely not going to hide anything from them. Then let's get out of here. As long as we can get a certain distance away, they won't continue to pursue us, and Lin said with a calm expression. With his disciple here, his sense of security instantly multiplied, and he even spoke with more confidence. Xiaoza nodded with a smile. Master, my black crystal defense can also defend while we move, so they won't be able to harm us. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were ecstatic to hear this. That was great. This was a great sense of security. Thus, Xiaoza stood at the forefront of Lin and the others before materializing a black crystal barrier to enshroud everyone within. He then rose into the air atop his brick and fled into the distance. Holy F***CK. We've been ignored? Luan Yu Evil Dragon was astonished. How dare they look down on us? A cold smile appeared on Mei Gue Evil Dragon's face. Let's show them what a nightmare looks like, Huan Ming Evil Dragon said in a cold voice. The three powerful evil dragons began to unleash powerful spells toward Xiaoza. However, the barrier materialized by Xiao Zhe's power of the divine Tao was so sturdy that the black dragon was completely flabbergasted, and it withstood wave after wave of attacks with great tenacity. How could it be so tough? Luan Yu Evil Dragon was astonished. Seeing as we can't break through their defenses, let's use a trapping formation first. Huan Ming Evil Dragon gritted its teeth. No matter how powerful a defense is, it's going to get tired after unleashing it repeatedly. Let's trap them first before unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks. We'll definitely be able to break through their defenses. Thus, all types of earth-shattering restrictive spell techniques began to appear. No matter how bad *SS Xiaoza was in the Tao of defense, there was no way he could completely evade the restrictive spell techniques unleashed by three return to void final stage mighty figures. After fleeing for over 250 kilometers, he was finally caught by the three evil dragons. The infernal chains bound tightly around the black crystal barrier, and a series of divine symbols imbued themselves onto the barrier. Crimson roses spread through the air, unleashing powerful restrictive power. Huan Ming Evil Dragon split up over 100 tentacles, which pressed down firmly onto the black crystal barrier. Crap, we've been trapped. Xiaoza was very nervous, and cold sweat was pouring down his forehead. However, Lin and Su Xiaolan were completely unperturbed. In fact, they were even tempted to swallow a spirit pill. In a short period of time, they had already experienced this scene too many times. Now, they were as calm as a cucumber. Chapter 1174. Master, you look so confident. Have you found a way to break out of this predicament? Xiaoze asked with anticipation in his eyes at the sight of Lin's calm expression. Lin shook his head. I don't have any ideas. I'm just not concerned about life and death. Xiao Zhe, just what had Master been through? After trapping Xiao Zhe, the three evil dragons didn't waste any more words before unleashing a barrage of attacks on Xiao Zhe's defensive crystal. Xiao Zhe focused on circulating his power of the divine Tao to defend against the evil dragon's attacks. Meanwhile, Lin provided blood spirit pills for Xiao Zhe to consume. One of them was helping Xiao Zhe defend against the attacks while the other was feeding him pills. Give me another high-rank blood spirit pill, my disciple. Master, I just swallowed one. That's all right. Keep a few more in your stomach as a reserve energy source. The evil dragons were infuriated upon seeing this. We're attacking you like crazy, but you're still putting on a show of a master feeding pills to his disciple? With this in mind, the evil dragon's attacks became even more ferocious. Master, we can't continue like this. They're going to break through my defenses sooner or later. Xiao Zhe spoke with an urgent expression. His defenses were indeed very powerful, but it was very taxing to unleash his power of the divine Tao. Sooner or later, his defenses would be broken through. That's all right. We'll just wait like this. Lin smiled. Xiao Zhe was perplexed. What? and Lin looked up into the sky in the distance. The destruction in the sky had already spread for over 500 kilometers, and it was spreading faster and faster. The world is about to be destroyed, and all 7 of the evil dragons have been mobilized. However, there's still some top-rate mighty figures from the Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest who have yet to participate. You're saying we should wait for those mighty figures to strike? Xiaozhe asked. That's right. We're not the only ones fighting in this battle anyway. We still have those temporary allies who have to stand with us. And Lin smiled. Once they strike, that will be the best time for us to strike. Within a dark surveillance space, Dark Knight Trident was making adjustments on the battlefield. The evil dragons had secured a crushing victory on the Soul Formation stage battlefield. The evil dragons had secured a crushing victory on the battlefield below the Return to Void final stage. In a Return to Void final stage battle, 2 of the 7 Emperor's Throne final stage dragons had perished. 1 from the Western Dragon Forest had perished, and 1 from the Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas had perished. The ones who had escaped were all severely wounded. The situation appeared to be a stalemate, but Dark Knight Trident felt like the evil dragons were actually at a disadvantage. According to their information, there were 3 Return to Void final stage mighty figures from the Dragon Court, and all of them had already appeared. Furthermore, one of them had already been slain by the ancient Dragon Empress, so there was no need to worry about them. However, the Western Dragon Forest had sent a total of 6 Return to Void final stage mighty figures into the ancient dragon realm. Luo. The 4 hidden bombs filled Dark Knight Trident's heart with worry. He had initially wanted to send the 2 dragons who had chased away the Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas to reinforce the ancient Dragon Empress, but he repressed that thought upon thinking about those 4 hidden bombs. Lin and the others are going to die sooner or later. Tell Dubai Evil Dragon and Wu Si Evil Dragon to return to the formation for now. Dark Knight Trident really wanted to take care of his master as soon as possible, but he knew that the ancient Dragon Empress and the 7 Emperor's Throne Dragons would be able to crush Lin and the others sooner or later, so he had to think about the bigger picture. They didn't have to kill all of the mighty figures. All they had to do was focus all of their power on the 2 dragon tribes so that they wouldn't be able to destroy the passageway between the 2 worlds. Once the passageway between the 2 worlds was opened, they would be the final winners. It's almost there. Just a little bit more, Master. Dark Knight Trident clenched his fists as he looked at the woman on the projection. Bursts of divine light exploded as the terrifying power of the divine Tao swept forth, destroying everything in the surrounding area. The evil dragons unleashed one earth-shattering spell technique after another, which crashed mercilessly into the semi-transparent black crystal. The ancient Dragon Empress looked at the black crystal with an extremely calm expression. She was waiting for the black crystal to shatter so that she could unleash a lethal strike upon Lin and the others. Just wait a little longer. They won't be able to hold on for much longer. 15 minutes later, violent energy fluctuations suddenly erupted near the 99 formations. Dark energy engulfed heaven and earth as it enshrouded the entire space. A vast ocean surged for several hundred kilometers as massive waves rocked heaven and earth. The golden divine light was like the sun rising from the east, rising above the ocean. What's going on? The 3 evil dragons' expressions shifted at the same time. The dark energy fluctuations belong to Hades. Damn it, it still dares to come here. Luan, you evil dragon, roared with rage. Not only that, Meiguei Evil Dragon's expression became extremely strained as it looked at the energy erupting from the formation core. The Western Dragon Forest Sea God Poseidon and the goddess of war and wisdom, Athena, have also appeared. Hades' power of the divine Tao can evade the detection of the surveillance satellites. It's him who snuck in with those 2 mighty figures in an attempt to destroy our spell formation, Huan Meng Evil Dragon explained. The 3 evil dragons' expressions changed drastically upon seeing this. In contrast, the ancient Dragon Empress expression remained calm and collected. Continue to attack the enemies up ahead. Don't worry about what's going on over there. Duba Evil Dragon and Wu Si Evil Dragon will hold them off. Not only were Xiao Zhe and the others not dejected upon hearing this, they were even more motivated. Master is right. They were not fighting alone. There were many powerful teammates who stood on the same front line as them. This battle was far from over 10 kilometers away from the spell formation. Ao Ming's entire body was covered in blood as he lay on a huge rock, panting heavily. His firm and dignified face was now filled with grief. My son, how could you die like this? The Dragon King had already learned of Ao Xinyu's death through the shattering of his Jade Badge of Life. Ao Xinyu's death dealt a much more severe blow to the Dragon King than Ao Shiyu's death. Ao Xinyu was a top-rate mighty figure who had attained the power of the divine Tao. He was a Dragon Court's war god and the pillar of the Dragon Court. His death dealt a heavy blow to the foundation of the Dragon Court. Father, don't be dejected now. If we don't think of a way to break through the evil dragon's spell formation, this world is going to be shattered by them. When that time comes, we won't even be able to keep our lives. Ao Qingyu's sword was riddled with wounds, but his battle intent surged as he spoke. I understand, but what do we do? You know how powerful the evil dragons are. Not only are they extremely powerful, but they also fight with no regard for their own lives. Ao Meng was struck by a sense of lingering fear as he recalled the battle that had just taken place. Then let's fight with all our might. They burn their lifespans, and we burn our lifespans. They sacrifice their bloodlines, and we sacrifice our bloodlines. If we don't fight with all our might, how are we going to survive? Ao Qingyu gritted his teeth. Ao Meng looked at his son and opened his mouth, but no words came out. Well said. A rather lazy, yet extremely pleasant voice rang out. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu turned toward the source of the voice, and tears welled up in their eyes. My dear daughter, big sister, you're finally here. Chapter 1175. A woman in a red dress flew through the air, and her golden eyes were a little glazed over as she yawned involuntarily. Geez, I can't even take a nap. I woke up feeling like the sky had fallen. Do you have to be so scary? The woman grumbled with an enraged expression on her face. Big sister, I'm so glad you're here. Let's go stop the evil dragon's plan and destroy the spell formation. Ao Qingyu spoke with an excited expression. Ao Xiaowu didn't reply to Ao Qingyu. Instead, she turned to Ao Meng. Father, who killed Ao Xinyu? Ao Meng faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he thought for a moment before replying. He died very suddenly. I don't think any of the 7 dragons on the Emperor's throne continent would be able to kill him in a short time, so it was most likely the Emperor of the evil dragons who killed him. Oh, Xiao nodded before turning toward a certain direction. Ao Qingyu suddenly realized something, and his expression shifted. Big sister, our top priority now is to destroy the evil dragon's spell formation. You guys destroy the spell formation, I'll go take revenge. Ao Xiaowu cut off Ao Qingyu's words with an implacable authority. Daughter, you can let go of Ao Shuyu, but can't you focus on the bigger picture? Ao Meng also chimed in. Ao Xiaowu turned around with a smile on her face as she looked at the divine light and energy fluctuations erupting in the distance. It's not the same. I taught my 7th brother how to use a spear. He was killed, so as his half-master, I have to avenge him. Sigh, this is so troublesome, but I can't help it. The woman in a red dress stepped forward, and she appeared 5 kilometers away. Father, 5th brother, I'm going to battle now. You guys go destroy the spell formation, and I'll do my best to hold off the enemies over there. Ao Xiaowu left in an extremely stubborn manner. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu both heaved resigned sighs. No one could change Ao Xiaowu's decision. Father, are you still going to hesitate? Ao Qingyu asked. A conflicted expression appeared on Ao Meng's face for a moment before a vicious expression appeared on his face. F***ck it. I refuse to believe that the evil dragons can hold off so many powerful beings. Let's go destroy the spell formation now. 2 giant dragons with powerful auras soared into the sky and flew toward the shattered sky in the distance, wherein Lin and the others were. The evil dragon's attacks continued, and the area within a radius of 100 kilometers had been completely destroyed by the shock waves of the explosions. The entire continent had caved in. "Master, I can't hold on much longer." Xiao Zhe gritted his teeth. The three evil dragons panted heavily as excitement and cruelty appeared on their faces. "How much longer can he last?" Lin asked with a concerned expression. "I can hold on for another 2 hours at most," Xiaozi said dejectedly. The three evil dragons. How infuriating. He actually dared to tease them at this time? The three evil dragons attacked with even greater ferocity. At this moment, Dark Knight Trident's voice suddenly sounded. "Urgent news. 2 return to Void final stage Dragon Tribe mighty figures have returned, and their target is the spell formation. Which one of you is going to reinforce them?" "I'll go." He. "I have the most experience in dealing with wounded dragons." Luan Yu evil dragon licked its lips before rising into the air and flying toward the spell formation. However, right at this moment, a crimson spear projection that seemed to be able to puncture heaven and earth hurtled toward Luan Yu evil dragon from afar. "What?" Luan Yu evil dragon's expression shifted drastically, and it immediately unleashed its power of the divine Tao to protect itself. However, the spear projection was far more powerful than it had imagined. The spear projection tore through Luan Yu evil dragon's power of the divine Tao before puncturing its massive body. "Ow!" Luan Yu evil dragon howled with anguish. A ghastly hole appeared on its body, from which blood gushed forth. A woman in a red dress, wielding a silver spear with a dragon engraved on it, flew through the air with a mighty aura. She shot a glance at Luan Yu evil dragon with a smile. "Sorry about that, but none of you can leave. All of you have to stay here." "You arrogant ****. Who the hell are you? Who gave you the courage to hold off all of us by yourself?" Mei Gue evil dragon flared up with rage. "I didn't say I was going to fight all of you. Are my teammates here?" Ao Xiaowu turned toward Lin and the others with anticipation in her eyes. Lin and Su Xiaolan were both ecstatic to see who it was. The powerful teammates they were looking for had finally arrived. Ao Xiaowu turned toward the ancient Dragon Empress. "You killed Ao Xinyu, the spear-wielding Dragon Tribe male?" The ancient Dragon Empress admitted with a straight face. "I did." Ao Xiaowu nodded. "Then there's no problem." She pointed her spear at the ancient Dragon Empress with a cold expression. "I'm going to kill you." "Oi, oi. Did I hear that right? This ***TCH wants to kill our master?" Mei Gue evil dragon couldn't help but burst into laughter. "What an arrogant idiot. She's most likely a new mighty figure from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. This is the first time she's entered the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm, and she's trying to commit suicide just because she's a little powerful?" Huan Meng evil dragon was also quite amused. Not taking into account anything else, even the 3 of them combined were no match for the ancient Dragon Empress. But this Dragon Tribe woman wanted to kill the ancient Dragon Empress? The ancient Dragon Empress represented the pinnacle of the return to Void Stage. Even though she was injured, no other return to Void Stage mighty figure could oppose her. Ao Xiaowu pursed her lips upon hearing Huan Meng evil dragon's words. This was not the first time she had entered the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm. However, she had never fought in the past. Instead, she had been looking for a place to sleep, which was why her opponents were unfamiliar with her. That woman is not to be underestimated. Don't get complacent. Luan Yu evil dragon, who had just been stabbed by Ao Xiaowu's spear, did not underestimate her in the slightest. Ao Xiaowu turned toward Lin and the others. "I'll take care of the ancient Dragon Empress. You guys take care of the other evil dragons. Don't let them get away, all right?" "Yes, no problem." Lin slapped his chest in a resolute manner. "Lin, can Ao Xiaowu really take care of the ancient Dragon Empress?" Su Xiaolan was a little concerned. "Just trust this beautiful aunt of yours. She's no ordinary bad **SS. She's the true, stabilizing force of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas," Lin reassured. He then transmitted his voice to Ao Xiaowu about the special characteristics of the ancient Dragon Empress power of the Divine Tao. Not only was there no fear on Ao Xiaowu's face upon hearing about this peculiar ability, but her dead fish eyes had transformed into titanium alloy fish eyes as she stared at the ancient dragon empress. Let me experience the power of the most powerful being in the evil dragon tribe. Ao Xiaowu charged toward the ancient dragon empress with her spear, and her spear projection instantly tore through space. Xiaozhe removed his defensive barrier, and in Lin, Su Xiaolan, and Long Outyin, who had just barely recovered, charged toward the three evil dragons. A battle instantly erupted near the formation. 5 returned to void final stage mighty figures engaged in an intense battle, and the energy erupting from their battle was capable of toppling mountains and filling oceans. Heaven and earth dimmed as destructive energy wreaked havoc, and there was not a single living being within a radius of several hundred kilometers. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu rushed over from afar to join the battle. Duba Evil Dragon and Wu Si Evil Dragon had been forced to sacrifice their lives in order to put up a final resistance. This life-sacrificial mystic technique wouldn't last for very long, and the evil dragon's final line of defense was about to be broken. The scales of victory were slowly tipping in their favor. Lin and the others could finally see the light of victory. Chapter 1176. Ao Xiaowu raised her spear and stabbed it toward the ancient dragon empress. A silver spear projection pierced through heaven and earth, and it was even more fearsome than the one she had used on Luanyu Evil Dragon. This was the top dog of the dragon tribe. She usually liked to slack off, but when she got serious, she was a true dragon who could overturn rivers and seas. The ancient dragon empress looked at the oncoming spear, and a red power of the divine Tao began to appear. Slaughter. The dragon tribe empress didn't even get a chance to finish her sentence before Ao Xiaowu's body suddenly flashed, and she instantly retreated to over 10 kilometers away. But her spear projection didn't stop there. It continued onward for over 10 kilometers straight toward the dragon tribe empress heart. A hint of surprise appeared on the ancient dragon empress face at Ao Xiaowu's extreme agility. Pain of the cage. The power of the divine Tao materialized into a massive golden bell before her. Ao Xiaowu's spear projection struck the massive golden bell, upon which an extremely terrifying screeching sound erupted, and the massive golden bell was soon riddled with cracks. Even though this attack was extremely powerful, it was still quite a ways away from breaking through the ancient dragon empress defenses. The spear projection had run out. The ancient dragon empress turned toward Ao Xiaowu, only to discover that she had already begun to charge backward with her spear in hand. The ancient dragon empress expression shifted drastically, and she hurriedly retreated. Ao Xiaowu thrust her spear forward, unleashing over 100 spear projections in an instant, sealing off all of the ancient dragon empress paths of retreat. Pain of fear. A black power of the divine Tao appeared on her hands. The ancient dragon empress' hands transformed into the most resolute divine weapons as she retreated toward Ao Xiaowu's spear projections, upon which the space around them crumbled. Oi, oi, you gotta be kidding me, right? Our leader is being dominated by a dragon tribe woman? Megue Evil Dragon's eyes widened upon seeing this. That dragon tribe woman is very powerful. Luanyu Evil Dragon spoke as it battled Long Outyin. It and Long Outyin were both wounded, so it was a perfect opportunity for them to fight together. The ancient dragon empress wasn't actually at a disadvantage. She simply hadn't decided how she was going to fight Ao Xiaowu, so she chose to defend herself. It was undoubtedly the case that Ao Xiaowu was an extremely proficient fighter. Not only could she predict her opponent's movements, but she could also quickly determine the ancient dragon empress weakness, which was her spell casting speed. All of the ancient dragon empress attacks were very powerful, but they required time to unleash. For normal mighty figures, this amount of time wasn't enough to prove anything. However, for Ao Xiaowu, it was the key to victory. She could use speed to defeat her opponent. If a normal mighty figure tried to attack, the ancient dragon empress would be able to insta-kill them. However, Ao Xiao was different. Not only were her attacks fast, but they were also lethal. If the ancient dragon empress were to ignore Ao Xiao's spear attack and shed tears of blood, her heart would probably bleed before she could shed tears of blood. Her battle with Ao Xiao had fallen into a stalemate. The three evil dragons were also trapped, unable to escape. Luan Yu Evil Dragon and Long Out Yin were both sick. Huan Meng Evil Dragon attempted to use its divine Dao domain to drag Xiaoze into a realistic dream realm, but the shield materialized by Xiaoze was like an omnipotent barrier that repelled even the power of the divine Dao dream realm. Huan Meng Evil Dragon's most powerful spell technique had been rendered useless, and it could only engage in a barrage of fists with Xiaoze. This was actually a huge disadvantage for Huan Meng Evil Dragon, as Xiaoze was most likely the most thick-skinned among all of these mighty figures. It had also thought about running away, but Xiaoze had a type of short-time acceleration mystic technique that would allow him to stall it. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were fighting Mei Gui Evil Dragon as a husband and wife duo, so there was even less of a chance of victory. Oh, Mei Gui, I'm going to teach you why roses are so red. And Lin unleashed his fire god mode and pummeled Mei Gui Evil Dragon as he spoke. This dragon is very beautiful. We can't let her get away with this. Su Xiaolan's sword techniques were extremely powerful, and each and every one of her sword strikes was imbued with the extremely powerful power of the true dragon and the vermilion bird, which was more than enough to break through Mei Gui Evil Dragon scales. Mei Gui Evil Dragon was about to have a mental breakdown. These two were insane. Why couldn't they let her off just because she was beautiful? What kind of logic was this? No one answered her question. Perhaps Lin and Su Xiaolan were just spouting trash talk after getting too high from their battle. Right at this moment, a sharp screech that tore through space erupted throughout heaven and earth. Ao Xiaowu had punctured one of the ancient dragon empress hands with her silver spear. Blood splattered through the air, but the ancient dragon empress hand gripped tightly onto the tip of the spear. At the same time, the ancient dragon empress' other hand, which had been imbued with the power of the divine Tao of fear, slashed down upon the silver spear like a saber. Bam! A resounding boom erupted. The spear imbued with Ao Xiaowu's power of the divine Tao was snapped in half by the ancient dragon empress hand. Ao Xiaowu hurtled back in retreat, and her eyes widened with shock as she stared at the shattered spear. Are you kidding me? That's a high-ranked spirit tool. How did it snap just like that? Let's see how you're going to use your spear now, the ancient dragon empress said in a frosty voice. In the next instant, the hair on the ancient dragon empress body stood on end. A fair and nimble fist suddenly appeared in front of her. That fist struck her with an extremely horrifying feeling. The ancient dragon empress reflexively swatted a palm toward the fist, upon which she was blasted flying for over 10 kilometers. How could this be? How could you be so powerful? The ancient dragon empress arm was numb as she stared at Ao Xiaowu in astonishment. If her hand hadn't been imbued with the power of the divine Tao, her entire arm would probably have been crippled by that fist. I didn't say that spears are my forte. I only used the spear as a tribute to my seventh brother. Ao Xiaowu's eyes were closed as she murmured in a daze, as if she were talking in her sleep. The ancient dragon empress' mouth gaped open, and she almost threw up a mouthful of blood. So all of her efforts to snap the spear had been for nothing? You're in a very strange situation right now. Your divine Tao has somehow resonated with your body. The ancient dragon empress' crimson eyes narrowed slightly as her expression became more and more grave. Ao Xiaowu's body swayed as she murmured, "My divine Tao is sleep. The deeper I sleep, the more powerful I become. When I fall into a deep sleep, I'll be invincible. That way, it'll be easier for me to fight. I don't even have to worry about myself, and I can move on my own. How about it? Am I very powerful?" The ancient dragon empress was completely astonished upon hearing this, and she stared at Ao Xiaowu with incredulity etched on her face. Just how much of a sleep-loving person did she have to be able to attain this kind of power of the divine Tao? Just as she was feeling a little dazed, Ao Xiaowu unleashed another spatial skipping technique and instantly appeared before the ancient dragon empress before unleashing a mundane punch. This was a fist technique of the utmost simplicity of the great Tao, and it didn't seem to have been unleashed by a human. Instead, it was an extremely natural fist that had been birthed from heaven and earth, and the intent realm emanating from it was also very simple. I'm going to pummel you to death. The ancient dragon empress discovered that she was unable to evade this fist, so she could only take it head-on with her own fist. She activated her power of the divine Tao to its maximal extent, thereby making her fist as hard as a divine weapon. Boom! The two fists collided. Heaven and earth fell silent for a split second. An explosive screech erupted from her bones. Immediately afterward, the ancient dragon empress flew back like a cannonball. Chapter 1177. The ancient dragon empress was blasted flying by Ao Xiaowu again. Ao Xiaowu's power had increased explosively after her sleep, and each and every one of her attacks was imbued with the power of the divine Tao of heaven and earth. Her seemingly ordinary fists were already extremely powerful. The ancient dragon empress was no longer a match for Ao Xiaowu. You're clearly asleep, so how are you still able to pinpoint my location? The ancient dragon empress was perplexed. Ao Xiaowu didn't reply. Perhaps she heard, perhaps she didn't. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing became more and more drawn out, as if she were a peaceful and harmless little girl. Slap! The sound of a footstep erupted. The ancient dragon empress expression shifted drastically as a yellow power of the divine Tao enshrouded her body. Pain of mincing flesh. Sure enough, in the next instant, Ao Xiaowu appeared before the ancient dragon empress again before unleashing an almighty fist. Her fist passed through the power of the mincing flesh divine Tao and was instantly sliced over 1,000 times. Lin had one of his arms severed by the ancient dragon empress with this very same attack. Ao Xiaowu's red sleeve was also shredded, revealing her fair, jade-like arm. A series of bloody gashes appeared on her arm, and her brows furrowed slightly, as if she was in agony. However, what happened next made the ancient dragon empress' eyes widen. Her pain of mincing flesh quickly lost its effect on Ao Xiaowu. This was clearly a real power, and this was clearly a realistic attack, but it was as if everything had fallen into a dream. Materialization. The ancient dragon empress turned pale with fright. Ao Xiaowu's fist fell again. The ancient dragon empress crossed her arms before her, and her body was blasted flying for several kilometers again. The terrifying power flowed through her arms and into her body, and even her internal organs were shattered by that punch. Her power has become even more terrifying. She was still able to speak earlier, so she was most likely in a semi-conscious state. Has she truly entered a state of slumber now? The ancient dragon empress expression was extremely grave. Turning reality into nothingness is also relative. When one's power is strong enough, what should be real can't be changed. I can't waste any more time. I have to end this battle as soon as possible. The ancient dragon empress unleashed a rainbow divine light this time. Each divine light represented a type of suffering, and when the 7 divine lights combined, they could unleash a power that exceeded that of an entire tribe. Dragon Rebel. The ancient dragon empress took the initiative to pounce toward Ao Xiaowu. Her fist was imbued with Tao intent that threatened to break through the barriers between heaven and earth. Ao Xiaowu was still in a daze, and she continued to clash with the ancient dragon empress with her fists. This time, Ao Xiaowu was blasted flying by the ancient dragon empress dragon reverse strike, and she seemed to have sustained some injuries as well. The ancient dragon empress pressed her advantage and unleashed a flurry of punches in an attempt to kill Ao Xiaowu. Ao Xiaowu continued to parry his attacks. Even though she was at a disadvantage, she was still extremely calm and collected. Her responses were precise, and her reactions were swift. She didn't panic in the slightest, and she was like a robot. The ancient dragon empress had tried fusing the power of the pain of slaughter into her fists, and if a normal return to void stage mighty figure were to take her punch, they would definitely explode on the spot. However, Ao Xiaowu was able to react extremely quickly after being struck by the punch. An alluring blush appeared on her face, but that was all. Then she continued to wave her sleeping fists. The ancient dragon empress had no choice but to resort to the simplest and most violent attack. In less than a minute, Ao Xiaowu had been punched over a dozen times, and her entire face was bruised and swollen. However, she didn't show any signs that she was going to wake up. As time passed by, she fell into a deeper and deeper sleep, and her aura became more and more ethereal and unfathomable. Her battle techniques also became more and more profound. The ancient dragon empress became more and more alarmed as she fought. She discovered that she couldn't kill Ao Xiaowu with her punches. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Ding dong, Xiaowu has entered deep sleep and has entered 100% hack mode. In that instant, Ao Xiaowu's aura completely changed. An invisible ripple proliferated through the air. The ancient dragon empress couldn't detect Ao Xiaowu's aura anymore. In its place was an extremely mysterious and natural aura that was very difficult to detect, as if it could fuse with heaven and earth. Ao Xiaowu sprang into action again. She evaded the ancient dragon empress fists using an extremely peculiar movement technique before stabbing two of her fingers toward the ancient dragon empress heart like a sword. The tip of her finger was extremely profound and unfathomable, and the 7 divine Tao lights were all sliced apart. That finger was imbued with the power of heaven and earth. The ancient dragon empress understood now. If her Tao was a Tao that defied the natural order after being oppressed by heaven and earth, then Ao Xiaowu's Tao was a Tao that conformed to heaven and earth and encompassed all things. Before Ao Xiaowu went to sleep, she left behind a will to heaven and earth. That was a command. For example, kill the ancient dragon empress, and heaven and earth would gradually take control of her body, thereby entrusting this will to heaven and earth. If Ao Xiaowu wanted to kill her, then the entire heaven and earth wanted to kill her. The entire heaven and earth was helping Ao Xiaowu kill her. How could there be such a freakish and bizarre divine Tao? The ancient dragon empress heart was punctured by Ao Xiaowu's fingers, and even the space behind her was punctured as well. Blood splattered through the air, and she hurtled back in retreat, but her eyes were extremely bright. The ancient dragon empress was not fearful. Instead, a scorching excitement appeared on her face. I defy the natural order. So how can you do anything to me even if you conform to the heavenly Tao? I'll use you to verify my Tao. Her heart was quickly healing under the nourishment of the green divine Tao light. The ancient dragon empress charged toward Ao Xiaowu again, and her aura climbed steadily as if she had attained some enlightenment. She was even more powerful than before, and she engaged in a battle with Ao Xiaowu. The battle between these two women was more terrifying than any of the battles taking place on the battlefield. This was no longer something that could be described as earth-shattering. One was conforming to the natural order, while the other was defying the natural order. Their battle caused the great Tao of heaven and earth to tremor violently, and destructive energy fluctuations threatened to completely shatter heaven and earth. What terrifying power! No one will be able to stand a chance against these two female tigers. Lin was astonished as he looked on at the battle between two mighty figures at the return to Void Pinnacle stage. They're not female tigers, they're female dragons. They're even more terrifying when they go berserk. Su Xiaolan corrected as she hacked at Mei Gui, evil dragon. Are you going to become like this in the future? Lin was a little flustered, and he pummeled Mei Gui, evil dragon, a few times with a concerned expression. That'll depend on your performance. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips into a smile as she turned toward Lin with a meaningful expression. If someone does something wrong to me, then don't blame me for transforming into a female dragon. Cold sweat began to appear on Enlin's forehead upon hearing this. Now that they had the upper hand, they were in a much better mood, and they could chat as they fought. Thus, the three evil dragons began to receive a signal again. Duba Evil Dragon and Wuxi Evil Dragon can't hold on for much longer. Luan Yu Evil Dragon, and I will hold them off. Huan Meng Evil Dragon, you're the fastest, so go and reinforce them. Mei Gue Evil Dragon roared. Enlin chuckled coldly. You think you can hold us off with just the two of you? However, in the next instant, Enlin discovered that he was wrong. At the same time that the three evil dragons were burning their life forces, they had also chosen to sacrifice their bloodlines. Chapter 1178. Sacrificing the power of one's bloodline was a special enhancement spell technique unique to the dragon tribe. It could allow dragons to gain extraordinary power in a short period of time. Enlin had seen this spell technique unleashed by Bai Lian before. At the time, she had sacrificed the power of her bloodline in order to save him. Using this spell technique would result in severe repercussions. In the less severe repercussions, one's bloodline would become impure, thereby making it very difficult for one's cultivation base to progress in the future. In the more severe repercussions, one's cultivation base could even fall. Normal dragon tribe cultivators wouldn't use this method in battle, as it was equivalent to committing suicide. Return to Void stage mighty figures who stood at the pinnacle of all living beings were even more reluctant to use this method. But now, three Return to Void final stage evil dragons were using it without any hesitation. My master's sword points to the same direction as our hearts. Mei Gue Evil Dragon sacrificed its bloodline, and rose petals danced in the air like rain, creating a spectacular and beautiful sight to behold, creating an extremely powerful trapping formation. She turned toward the massive Huan Meng Evil Dragon and said, I'll leave the core formation to you. I'll be sure to do so. Huan Meng Evil Dragon flapped its wings and flew toward the formation at an extremely fast speed. Don't even think about getting away. Xiao Zhe roared as he unleashed a mystic technique toward Huan Meng Evil Dragon. At this moment, heaven and earth suddenly transformed into a hellish space. A giant flaming net condensed in the void, containing an extremely powerful suppressive force. It was like an inescapable net that cut off Xiao's path of pursuit, and a series of huge fireballs bombarded Xiaoze. Luan Yu Evil Dragon was taking Long Out Yin's attacks head-on as it attacked Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe crashed through Luan Yu Evil Dragon's hellish space, but he was still held back for a split second in the end. After sacrificing the power of its bloodline, Huan Meng Evil Dragon's speed rose to its peak, and it took advantage of this brief window of opportunity to open up some distance between itself and Xiao Zhe. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were also held back by Mei Gue Evil Dragon with all its might, but Huan Meng Evil Dragon still managed to escape in the end. At the same time, around the 99 Pillars of Light, a violent tremor erupted. A massive hole appeared in the formation. A black ball bounced into the opening. Quickly stop, Hades! Duba Evil Dragon roared. I can't. These two Dragon Tribe mighty figures have suddenly gone insane for some reason. Wuxi Evil Dragon spoke with difficulty. The two evil dragons were trying to hold off 5 Return to Void final stage mighty figures. Even if 3 of the 5 were wounded, it was still an extremely difficult task. Not long after, the Western Dragon Forest Dark God Hades broke through the formation and entered. Enlin and the others had finally taken the most critical step on the battlefield. Haha, there are so many evil dragon race spirits here. Evil Shout God, Dragon of Dragon, Evil God to God, God, and Dragon God. Dragon, an indescribable, evil dragon God. Was God to be too long to say. The dragon to evil kings to. Shout God, shout to that. To the dragon Lian T2 of Chun, Mu family dragon. He to Chun God. Chun to know one of one black tentacle after another shot forth from the ball, piercing through the hearts of the fleeing evil dragons like sharp swords. One evil dragon after another died amid blood-curdling cries, and even their life essence was absorbed by the tentacles. String your heart and my heart together. String a clover, string a concentric circle. Hades hummed a song as he slaughtered the evil dragons that were trying to escape. Blood flowed over the ground. The cries of children and the blood-curdling cries of adults filled the entire space. Hades' casual slaughter brought terror and despair to the 30,000 evil dragons. One evil dragon after another pounced toward Hades in an attempt to buy time for their brethren, but all of them had their hearts gouged out by Hades' tentacles. Ha! So much power of dragons. Even though it's not very powerful, it's still extremely delicious. Hades was extremely excited. At this moment, an enraged roar sounded. Hades, don't forget what you're here for. Hurry up and destroy the core spell formation. Outside the spell formation, the Western Dragon Forest goddess of wisdom and war, Athena cautioned. Sorry, I almost forgot what I was here to do. Hades skipped toward the center of the spell formation. 99 pillars of light. The core should be that double-headed spear piercing through heaven and earth, right? Its body quickly squirmed as its aura climbed steadily, as if it was accumulating power. Right at this moment, a black shadow quickly approached. Don't even think about ruining our master's plan. Huan Meng, evil dragon, let loose an almighty roar, and its body plummeted from the sky toward Hades like a meteorite. Boom! Hades let loose an anguished wail as it was knocked out of the spell formation by Huan Meng, evil dragon. Huan Meng, evil dragon's arrival reignited hope in Duba, evil dragon, and Wu Si, evil dragon's hearts. Hades, this is a war. Why are you slaughtering innocent civilians? Huan Meng, evil dragon's body trembled with rage at the sight of the evil dragon carcasses strewn all over the ground. This is a war. Isn't it my freedom to treat weaklings like you? Hades' body trembled with laughter. Boom! Huan Meng, evil dragon, tore through space and pounced toward Hades again. If that's the case, then I'll send you to meet Apollo. Thus, the battle between Huan Meng, evil dragon, and Hades erupted. On the battlefield wherein Lin and the others were fighting. Everyone almost exploded with rage upon witnessing the battle taking place on the spell formation using their eye techniques. What the F***CK are those mighty figures from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest doing? They're being held back by 2 evil dragons, and now Huan Meng, evil dragon, has also joined them. Xiaozhe couldn't help but grumble with a resentful expression. That black ball is actually the dumbest C***T of all. It entered the spell formation, but instead of doing its job, it's slaughtering some weak evil dragons. I'm afraid it's an idiot. And Lin was also very angry. What a useless teammate. Su Xiaolan summed it up. Don't give up. The evil dragons won't be able to hold on for much longer. The buff mystic techniques also have a time limit. Once the time limit is up, they'll be able to win no matter what. Long Outyin was very optimistic. All we need to do is hold off the enemies before us. As long as the battle continues, we'll be the final winner. Long Outyin encouraged everyone as he battled Luan Yu Evil Dragon. The Evil Dragon tribe had fallen into a disadvantageous position. Not only were the 7 Emperors' throne dragons struggling, but even the ancient Dragon Empress was being dominated by Ao Xiaowu. This wasn't to say that the ancient Dragon Empress was inferior to Ao Xiaowu. It was just that she had been through far too many battles, and her body was riddled with wounds. Thus, she was being pummeled by a woman who was asleep. The ancient Dragon Empress swore that this was the most bizarre and dreamy battle she had ever experienced in her life. Not long after the battle began, a turn of events suddenly unfolded. A gargantuan black dragon appeared in the distance before flying toward the 99 pillars of light. Ha! Your grandpa Xiao, too, has come back to life. A dragon's roar erupted, reverberating throughout heaven and earth. The battle between the evil dragons immediately became even more dire. The ancient Dragon Empress was about to swear. How many King lives did this black dragon have? Chapter 1179. Xiao Tu's appearance transformed the situation drastically once again. Aside from the ancient Dragon Empress, who else could keep it at bay? The ancient Dragon Empress was already being dominated by Ao Xiaowu. So Xiao Tu was invincible. Xiao Tu quickly flew toward the center of the formation. All of the evil dragons were panicking. How were they supposed to defend themselves against such a gargantuan creature? Get into formation. 2 returned to Void Initial Stage, and 1 returned to Void Intermediate Stage. Evil Dragon roared. They set up a combination spell formation in an attempt to keep the giant dragon at bay. Boom! The black dragon's body was imbued with boundless power as it crashed directly toward the combination spell formation. With a loud crash and cracking sound, the black dragon broke through the joint attack formation. The 3 evil dragons attacking Xiao Tu were knocked back as blood gushed from their mouths. Xiao Tu wasn't an idiot like Hades, and he ignored the 3 retreating evil dragons as he continued toward the formation. All of the evil dragons were in despair. Only the 7 Emperor's Throne dragons would be able to keep Xiao Tu at bay. However, all 7 Emperor's Throne dragons were being attacked, so there was no one left to stop Xiao Tu's day. I'll be the one to end this battle. Xiao Tu chortled with glee. Crack! Bam! An earth-shattering boom suddenly erupted, sweeping through the entire heaven and earth. It was as if something had been broken, and heaven and earth were crumbling at an accelerated rate. The cracks in the sky began to spread in all directions in a frenzy. The earth tremored violently and began to crack open, revealing inky black, bottomless rifts. Oi oi, you're kidding, right? Xiao Tu faltered slightly as an incredulous expression appeared on his face. All the dragons who were fighting were also stunned, and they all turned their gazes in the direction of the formation. The light from the double-headed spear had already pierced through the 2 worlds. The 99 pillars of light shone with scintillating light, as if they were illuminating the entire world. Look, Mommy, the earth in front of us has turned white. An evil dragon child exclaimed with excitement. At the core of the formation, at the very bottom of the double-headed spear, the black circular domain of absolute nothingness had turned into a holy white, exuding alluring spatial fluctuations as if it were a passageway to the heavens. Within the dark detection space, Dark Knight Trident's body was trembling with excitement as tears welled up in his eyes. He had released his voice to the entire world through the surveillance satellite. Attention all evil dragons. Attention all evil dragons. The passageway leading to the Tai Chu continent has been opened, and this is a passageway that is exclusive to our tribe. All evil dragons, please enter the passageway at the center of the formation as soon as possible. All brethren who are still engaged in battle, please don't get caught up in the battle. Let's retreat to the new world first. We've won this war. Dark Knight Trident's words echoed throughout the entire world. The countless evil dragons were excited. They had finally obtained the final victory. Some laughed, some cried. Some of them closed their eyes with a faint smile on their faces as they laid in a pool of blood. Some knew that they couldn't escape, so they burst into laughter and self-destructed, taking the enemy down with them. Their mission was complete. They already knew that the future of the evil dragon tribe would be even better. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were dumbfounded, momentarily forgetting to fight. The ancient dragon empress pursed her lips and looked up at the shattered heavens in the distance, and a relieved smile appeared on her face as tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Finally succeeded. She had been waiting for this day for countless years. She had been looking forward to it for countless years. The price they had paid was very heavy, but thankfully they had won in the end. This battle wasn't about whether or not they would be defeated by the other evil dragon tribe cultivators. Instead, it was about whether or not they could protect the formation when the passageway between the 2 worlds was opened. Was the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the Western Dragon Forest going to win for sure? No. As long as the core formation wasn't destroyed when the time came, they would be the true winners. We did it. We finally did it. Mei Gue, evil dragon, wept tears of joy. So what if they had to sacrifice their life force? So what if they had to sacrifice their bloodlines? As long as they could open up the passageway to the new world for the evil dragon tribe, everything would be worth it. Megue, evil dragon, didn't want to say anything else, and it began to rain down a rain of rose petals. This was a moment worth celebrating. Explosions were still erupting in the sky, and the shattered heavens had already extended to wherein Lin and the others were battling. The sky was beginning to collapse, and the earth was beginning to shatter. It wouldn't be long before the entire world was engulfed by chaos and nothingness. Ao Xiaowu opened her bleary eyes, and she yawned lazily. "Is everything over?" she asked in a gentle voice. "It's over." A vibrant smile appeared on the ancient dragon emperor's face. Ao Xiaowu's expression faltered upon hearing this, and she looked up at the heaven and earth that was crumbling like a herd of wild horses, then at the dragon tribe great empress, who wore a relieved smile on her face, and she fell silent. "You're the only enemy that has smiled at me since I woke up," Ao Xiaowu said. "You're far too kind." The ancient dragon empress smile remained unchanged. "Are my teammates all pigs?" A dejected expression appeared on Ao Xiaowu's face. 5 return to Void Final Stage Evil Dragons have been held back by 2 return to Void Final Stage Evil Dragons, and according to her analysis of the quality of her sleep, they had lasted for quite a long time, which was unacceptable to her. "Oi, there was only one pig, but that pig ruined the entire plan," and Lin retorted with a displeased expression. That pig was referring to Hades, who had excitedly started a massacre after breaking into the formation. Ao Xiaowu turned to Lin with a resentful expression and remained silent. "Retreat," the ancient dragon empress roared. The 7 emperors' throne dragons began to flee toward the formation. "You're not getting away." Long Outhian roared as he gave chase before unleashing a series of vibrating fists toward Luanyu Evil Dragon. Luanyu Evil Dragon was forced to retreat by Long Outhian's attack. "Roar! The passageway between the 2 worlds has been opened, and the battle is over. Due to the forceful opening of the passageway, there's no way to reverse the collapse of this world. What's the point of continuing to fight?" Luanyu Evil Dragon roared. F***CK. "Even if I die, I'm going to take you down with me." Long Outyian's battle intent surged. He wanted to die a quick and painless death, and dying in battle was clearly his best option. F***CKU, you're psycho. Luanyu Evil Dragon let loose a torrent of abuse upon seeing Long Outyin pounce toward it. Luanyu Evil Dragon was trapped, but the ancient dragon empress instantly appeared beside it. Her rainbow divine, Dao, fused into her arm, and she blasted Long Outyin flying for over 10 kilometers with a single punch. Long Outyin felt as if his entire body had been torn apart, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. He didn't know just how terrifying the ancient dragon empress was without facing her in battle. "What are you waiting for?" the ancient dragon empress roared. Luanyu Evil Dragon immediately flew toward the formation upon hearing this. "Ms. Ao Xiaowu, the ancient dragon empress has already stepped in. Aren't you going to hold her off?" And Lin yelled in a panicked voice. "Don't bother me." Ao Xiaowu flared up with rage. "If you want to fight, then do it yourself. You're going to die anyway, so what's the point of winning now? The result is going to be the same anyway." It looked like not everyone wanted to take someone down with them before they died. The woman in red lay in midair and looked up at the crumbling heavens with a resigned expression. "Who would have thought that I, the brilliant Ao Xiaowu, would die here because of my useless teammates? I hope it doesn't hurt that much when I die in my sleep." Ao Xiaowu murmured to herself before peacefully closing her eyes. Lin, Chapter 1180. Ao Xiaowu didn't want to fight anymore, and Lin and Su Xiaolan couldn't do anything about it. They didn't bother Mei Gue Evil Dragon anymore. After all, the ancient dragon empress was here, and they didn't want to be severely wounded like Long Outyin. The ancient dragon empress and Mei Gue Evil Dragon began to retreat toward the passageway between the 2 worlds. "Master, what do we do now?" Xiao Zhe circled in the sky with a concerned expression. The collapse of this world was already irreversible, and no one knew how to mend the heavens. Let's go to the formation first and see what kind of passageway it is. And Lin gritted his teeth and didn't give up hope. I'll go as well. Long Outyin flew over and yelled. All right, let's set off right away. And Lin rose into the air atop his brick. At this moment, a lazy, soft voice suddenly sounded. Wait for me. Let's go together. A woman in a red dress stepped through the air before sitting down gracefully on the brick. And Lin was a little surprised to see her. You're not going to continue lying around? Who doesn't want to live? I'm going to try my best as well. Ao Xiao was talking about trying her best, but her voice was extremely feeble and gave her no sense of security at all. However, Lin and the others were a little inspired by her words. Aside from the ancient dragon empress, Ao Xiao was the most powerful person in this world. Her attitude gave everyone a glimmer of hope amid their despair. Thus, Lin, Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Long Outyin, and Ao Xiao followed closely behind the ancient dragon empress and the other evil dragon mighty figures toward the passageway. The chaotic winds produced by the collapse of this world were powerful enough to kill a return to void stage mighty figure. The power of this wind was extremely fearsome, and even Lin and the others had to deal with it with extreme caution. Thus, the entire journey was filled with trepidation. Within the formation, extremely powerful spatial ripples emanated from the circular halo of light. One evil dragon after another leaped into the void and rushed toward their new world. Outside of the battle, the emotions of Athena, Poseidon, Hades, Ao Ming, and Ao Qingyu had all fallen to rock bottom. Not only them, but all the other return to void stage mighty figures and soul formation stage powerful beings were also extremely dejected, and some of them were even on the brink of mental breakdown. Some of them were still fighting in a frenzy, venting the resentment in their hearts. Some were already looking at the destroyed world, and some are racking their brains to think of a way to break out of this. Huan Ming Evil Dragon, Duba Evil Dragon, and Wuxi Evil Dragon fought with their lives on the line, and the weaker evil dragons that were unable to participate in the battle all entered the spatial passageway within the formation. Soon after, the evil dragons retreated. All of a sudden, the area outside the formation became extremely chaotic. Not only was this a battleground for top-rate mighty figures, but there were also many other return to void stage and soul formation stage mighty figures gathered here. Let's charge in. Maybe we can also enter the spatial passageway. A dragon race supreme being roared. Kill. Charge in as one. Many dragon race experts roared. According to the speed at which this world was being destroyed, they would not be able to wait until they were summoned back to their original world. The arrival of the light of summoning was determined by the spatial gate between the two worlds. There was no such thing as an early arrival. Entering the evil dragon's spatial passageway seemed to be the most promising course of action. Rumble. Another massive hole was blasted into the formation by Dark King Hades. Ao Qingyu also unleashed a dazzling sword strike, which tore a massive fissure into the formation and almost sliced it in half. The spatial passageway had already been opened, so it didn't really matter whether the formation was destroyed or not. At most, it could only defend against the destructive energy of the world, as well as defend against enemy attacks. One top-rate mighty figure after another began to unleash furious attacks upon the formation, and the formation began to crumble. Most of the 99 massive mountains from which pillars of light had erupted were also razed to the ground by spell techniques. However, all of this was to no avail. Forcibly opening a spatial passageway between the two worlds would result in the destruction of this world, and no one would be able to stop that unless that person could mend the heavens. Nuwa could mend the heavens, but there weren't even any Dao integration stage super mighty figures here. So where were they going to find Nuwa? On this chaotic battlefield, there were still some who managed to escape into the spatial passageway. This passageway is most likely exclusive to the dragon tribe, not the evil dragons. We'll definitely be able to get in. A soul formation stage powerful being consoled himself before rushing into the spatial passageway. However, His body had only just disappeared into the white halo on the ground when he let loose a blood-curdling wail. "Ah, save me!" The soul formation stage powerful being's body was dissected, as if he had jumped into a high-frequency meat grinder. His body was pulverized into tiny particles, and his entire body disappeared in the end. All of the soul formation stage powerful beings behind him were scared ***+ upon seeing this. This wasn't a passageway to escape. This was clearly a pit of fire. No wonder there weren't any evil dragon powerful beings guarding this spatial passageway. Who would stop an enemy from jumping into a pit of fire to die? All of the soul formation stage powerful beings refrained from jumping into the spatial passageway. However, the return of void stage mighty figures were still itching for action. What if that dead soul formation stage powerful being wasn't powerful enough? If they were powerful enough to keep the spatial passageway at bay, would they be able to enter it? A Western Dragon Forest return to void stage mighty figure was hesitating above the spatial passageway. However, he finally roared at the sight of the ancient dragon empress in the distance. "I'm willing to die for the future of the Western Dragon Forest." He was going to die either way, so he might as well give it his all. Otherwise, once the ancient dragon empress arrived, he might not even have a chance to enter the spatial passageway. Thus, the return to void stage mighty figure unleashed spatial power to enshroud his entire body before leaping into the white spatial passageway, right before the awestruck eyes of all of the dragon tribe cultivators. And then, the dragon tribe mighty figure's blood-curdling wail shook heaven and earth. The peculiar power of the two realms pulverized the dragon tribe mighty figure's spatial power and reduced his body to the tiniest of particles. The dragon tribe mighty figure struggled to escape. But this spatial passageway seemed to possess a peculiar suction force toward other dragon tribe cultivators, as if it were an engulfing swamp. Thus, the dragon tribe mighty figure died amid a blood-curdling wail right before the eyes of all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. This scene was far too terrifying, and all of the dragon tribe cultivators had given up on the idea of jumping into the spatial passageway to escape from this world. Many of the dragon tribe powerful beings had already fallen into despair, and they didn't know what to do next. Some of them were still fighting, venting their despair and rage upon the evil dragons. "I have to see such a tragic scene as soon as I get here. What a headache." And Lin gripped onto Su Xiaolan's warm and soft hand with an extremely tense expression on his face. He couldn't think of a way out of this situation. "Ha, Mr. Lin, I didn't think that you would be able to survive for so long after encountering such a terrifying ****. That's impressive." Xiao Tu flew toward him with an excited expression. "Senior, you're about to die, and you're still so happy?" And Lin's expression darkened. "I don't really care." Xiao Tu waved his paws. "I have many resurrection trump cards. Who knows which sacrificial altar I'll be resurrected on if I die now." And Lin, everyone was suddenly struck by the urge to beat Xiao Tu to death. Chapter 1181. Everyone was about to perish along with the world, but there was someone jumping around and happily telling everyone that he could revive. Was this a pleasant surprise? How infuriating! How envious! And Lin quickly calmed himself down before asking, "Senior Xiao Tu, didn't you break through the barrier to come here? Can't you go back the way you came?" Everyone's eyes lit up upon hearing this. "If I can continue to travel with Xiao Tu, then I can find a way back to the Taichu continent. At the very least, I have to survive first." However, Xiao Tu shook his head with a forlorn expression. "If I could escape from this world, why would I be wasting my time here with you? The laws in the sky have collapsed, and the power of chaos has wreaked havoc. It's filled with energy that can destroy the entire world, and I'll be crushed if I approach it." Ao Xiao looked up into the sky. "They're like a ball of flames that will soon engulf this entire world, and we will perish along with this world." At this moment, the ancient dragon empress had already charged into the formation. She was like a monarch descending from the heavens as she unleashed the power of the rainbow, divine Tao, knocking back Athena, Hades, Poseidon, Ao Meng, and Ao Qingyu. All those who attack the evil dragons must die. The ancient dragon empress voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth, and all of the living beings battling the evil dragons faltered upon hearing this voice, clearly intimidated by the terrifying dragon might imbued within it. TSK, how domineering. She ended the battle with just a single sentence. Lin clicked his tongue in wonder upon seeing this. This actually has something to do with the fact that the ancient dragon empress just knocked back 5 top-tier mighty figures. After all, no one wants to be bashed to death by the ancient dragon empress, Su Xiaolan said. Boom, boom, boom. Her voice had only just trailed off when the formation was engulfed by a series of powerful spell techniques. F***CK it. I'm going to die either way. Let's attack together and kill that be *TCH. Huh. It's better to die at the hands of the ancient dragon empress than to be crushed to death by the heavens. Charge. We'll take one down with us if we can. The battle only paused for a few seconds before erupting again. There were still many fearless, powerful beings who chose to charge toward the ancient dragon empress. Su Xiaolan's mouth gaped open with incredulity. There really was someone who wasn't afraid of the ancient dragon empress. A smile appeared on Lin's face. See? The proud dragon tribe cultivators are not going to just stand there and wait for their deaths. The world is about to be destroyed. Everyone feels like they're going to die. What can't they do? At a time like this, anything can be understood. Ao Xiao pointed at a certain place with a smile. Look over there. Lin and the others turned their attention to a certain place. There was a green eastern dragon lying on the back of a western salamander, one in front and one behind. One in front and one behind. The western salamander's face turned red as it let out a painful cry. The battle between the two sides was intense. Everyone, you've lost your morals. Xiao Tu roared with rage. Xiaolan, why did you cover my eyes? Lin said angrily. Su Xiaolan's face was as red as an apple. Don't look at that image. It's too dirty. Didn't they say that eastern dragons and western dragons are mortal enemies? Is this a relationship that transcends race and class? Xiao Zhe's eyes were filled with envy. Ao Xiaowu shook her head. Perhaps he just wants to have some fun. Everyone, as the leader of the Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas, was it really appropriate for her to say something so blatant? Just as everyone was immersed in their own thoughts, Long Outyin made his way out of the formation. Senior Long Outyin, where are you going? Lin asked. I'm going to fight. That way, I'll die a more satisfying death. The muscles on Long Outyin's upper body, which were already covered with bloody scars, bulged once again, and a powerful force spread out in all directions like ripples. Bam! A sonic boom erupted. Long Outyin landed on the battlefield and began to attack all of the evil dragon mighty figures. Lin didn't stop Long Outyin, nor was he able to. One evil dragon mighty figure after another entered the spatial passageway. However, there were many powerful beings from the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas gathered outside the spell formation. The disparity in the number of powerful beings between the two powers placed a lot of pressure on the retreating evil dragon mighty figures. The ancient dragon empress stood in midair, facing off against an entire army on her own. Of the 5 surviving emperor's throne 7 dragons, 3 of them had already been severely wounded and could no longer fight, so they had also entered the barrier of light. Hence, there were only 3 evil dragon mighty figures who could fight, and all of them were stationed near the central spell formation. All of the other evil dragon mighty figures had entered the barrier one by one. Ancient Dragon Empress, Luanyu Evil Dragon, Mei Gue Evil Dragon, they're all familiar faces. Lin sighed with emotion. The ancient Dragon Empress has been through so many battles, but her combat prowess is still as astonishing as ever. She was able to defend against the attacks of 3 return to void final stage mighty figures from the Western Dragon Forest on her own. A yearning expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Su Xiaolan was completely won over by a female dragon tribe empress whose aura soared into the clouds. She sacrificed far more than you can imagine. Ao Xiaowu's eyes reflected the figure of the Dragon Tribe Empress as she spoke in a cold voice. My good daughter, big sister. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu began to fly toward Ao Xiaowu. The dragons of the Western Dragon Forest were more short-tempered and only wanted to fight in the face of the apocalypse. The Dragon Corps of the Eastern Seas were a lot more cowardly. They saw that fighting was pointless, so they wanted to do something else. Xiaowu, why are you with those B** stars like Enlin? Ao Meng's eyes widened. He was immediately enraged by the sight of Enlin. They're just temporary allies. They're more reliable than you two. Ao Xiaowu shot a glance at Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu, as if she were looking at two useless teammates. Even Enlin and the others could sense her intense resentment, let alone Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu. The most powerful boss had been held off by Ao Xiaowu, and their teammates had failed to win in a 5-on-2 battle. Anyone would be resentful about this. Haha, let's not talk about that for now. Have you thought of any way to survive? Ao Meng changed the subject. Ao Xiaowu shook her head. No, at the rate at which this world is being destroyed, we're all going to die here in an hour at most. Xiaoze looked up at the starry sky as a defensive crystal materialized in his hand, which was constantly changing. We're like puny creatures trapped in a cage by the power of destruction. When destruction engulfs the entire heavens and the earth falls apart, the laws of nature will vanish, and all things will perish into nothingness. He observed the destruction of this world, and his understanding of the Tao of defense deepened. Unfortunately, all of this had to come to an end. His defenses still couldn't withstand the destruction of this world. I can die without regrets. Xiaoze heaved a forlorn sigh. He hadn't even observed the divine Tao for a single day, and he was already going to die. However, he couldn't be as carefree as those cultivators. He still wanted to live. Boom, boom, boom. Another earth-shattering explosion erupted. The triumphant laughter of the Western Dragon Forest mighty figures rang out. Enlin and the others turned toward the formation to discover a woman lying on the ground with blood all over her body. The ancient Dragon Empress had been defeated by 3 Western Dragon Forest mighty figures. Chapter 1182. The ancient Dragon Empress tumbled to the ground in an extremely disheveled state, and she threw up another mouthful of blood. Ha! So that's all the Empress of the evil dragons can do. A blue lizard dragon spread its wings, upon which a gargantuan wave swept toward the ancient Dragon Empress. The ancient Dragon Empress wiped the blood from the corners of her lips and didn't say anything as she waved a hand toward the massive wave. The white power of the divine Tao fused into the air, instantly dispelling the massive wave, and even the Western Dragon Forest sea god Poseidon was knocked flying. Ao Xiaowu shook her head and heaved a faint sigh upon seeing this. The ancient Dragon Empress is just starting to get exhausted from all the battles she's been through. Otherwise, these clowns wouldn't even have a chance to wreak havoc here. Ao Xiaowu was quite respectful toward this empress who was able to maintain a smile even after she had woken up from her slumber. Perhaps this was the bond between 2 powerful women. You're about to die because of her, and you're still speaking up for her? Enlin was astonished. I'm telling the truth, Ao Xiaowu replied in a slow voice. Enlin had no response to this. The thought process of the most powerful being in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas was not something that normal people could understand. Enlin seemed to be starting to understand why Ao Xiaowu was still not hostile toward him despite his conflict with the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. On the final battlefield, Luan Yu Evil Dragon and Long Outyin were engaged in an intense battle, and their clashes created a series of massive craters in the ground, transforming the battlefield into a terrifying realm of death. Mei Gui Evil Dragon combined into 1,000 bodies to keep the other powerful beings at bay. The ancient Dragon Empress could only face the ferocious attacks of the 3 Western Dragon Forest return to void final stage mighty figures on her own. The world was about to be destroyed, and the Dragon Tribe had also gone insane. They began to attack the ancient Dragon Empress with all their might. The ancient dragon empress was gradually beginning to crumble under the relentless barrage of attacks. Boom! The ancient dragon empress was attacked by Hades' uncanny darkness spell technique again. The power of the divine, Tao, suddenly appeared before striking her lower abdomen. She was severely wounded, and she tumbled to the ground again. A woman enshrouded in golden light descended from the sky. Judgment of battle intent. A powerful sealing power erupted from her palm before striking the ancient dragon empress' heart, causing the ground within a radius of over 50 kilometers to cave in. At the same time, the woman's other hand gripped the ancient dragon empress' neck in a death grip. Master! Megue, evil dragon, roared upon seeing this as it tried to pounce towards Master. Before she could fly far, she was stopped by Poseidon. Luan Yu, evil dragon, was also being held back by Long Out Yin and was unable to break free in a short time. Ha ha ha! I can slay the most powerful dragon before I die. Awesome! Dark King Hades' round body suddenly transformed into a sharp black sword that descended upon the ancient dragon empress' head. Heh! You want my battle intent to yield? A cold smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face as she sensed Athena's power. All of a sudden, an unyielding divine Tao light that threatened to crush the entire heavens and transcend beyond the entire world erupted forth. She was the great empress who could even pierce through this world. So how could she succumb to Athena's judgment of battle will? Athena let loose a sharp cry, and the golden woman was blasted flying into the sky by the ancient dragon empress power of the divine Tao as blood gushed from her mouth. The ancient dragon empress struggled free from Athena's grasp and turned in the nick of time. Boom! The earth was instantly sliced in half. Hades' black sword did not strike the ancient dragon empress' head. Instead, it struck the side of her body and only managed to sever one of her arms. Blood splattered through the air, and the ancient dragon empress' other arm had already sprang into action. She hammered the black sword beside her, almost snapping Hades' body in half. An earth-shattering boom erupted, and Hades' sword was knocked flying like a piece of scrap metal. The ancient dragon empress stood up again and looked down at the powerful beings on the battlefield with a disdainful expression. She had turned the tables in the blink of an eye, turning the tables on to return to void final stage mighty figures. No one knew when she was going to fall. Countless dragon tribe powerful beings were petrified upon seeing this. At a time like this, she was the absolute ruler of the battlefield. Right at this moment, a spatial rift suddenly appeared. Dark Knight Trident emerged from the spatial rift and turned to the ancient dragon empress. All of the evil dragon tribe combatants have been evacuated from this world. Please enter the passageway as well, your majesty and the 7 battle dragons. Dark Knight Trident bowed respectfully to the 3 first-rate mighty figures who had fought to the end. He had fled in panic from Enlin and Su Xiaolan, but his expression remained extremely calm in the face of the spell techniques that were raining down upon him. The 3 mighty figures retreated toward the circular spatial passageway upon hearing this. Athena's golden light lit up heaven and earth. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Ha ha ha! Fight with us until the end of this world. Poseidon also sprang into action. Let's die together. Hades sacrificed his own bloodline in a frenzy in preparation for his final attack. The ancient dragon empress knocked Long Out Yin flying before standing alone in front of the spatial passageway to face the attacks of the 3 return to void final stage mighty figures. Let's go, the emperor shouted. The most powerful being of the evil dragon tribe decided to fight until the very end in order to give her tribe a path of retreat. Luan Yu, evil dragon, and Mei Gue, evil dragon, didn't hesitate and charged toward the spatial passageway. They knew that the faster they advanced, the faster the empress would be forced to retreat. However, a sudden turn of events suddenly unfolded at this moment. The white vortex on the ground suddenly tremored violently before gradually turning from white to black. The spatial power within it was quickly weakening. This is Luan Yu, evil dragon's pupils contracted. We've wasted too much time, and we don't have enough power to open up the spatial passageway. It's already beginning to shrink, and we can't use it anymore, Mei Gue, evil dragon, explained with a dark expression. Then what do we do? Luan Yu, evil dragon, was on the verge of a mental breakdown. They were only one step away. They were only one step away. It looked at the spatial passageway that was slowly turning from white to black, and it couldn't help but plunge headfirst into the passageway. There's one last way. The passageway is shrinking because the dragon tribe mighty figures don't have enough power to sacrifice their lives. Do you remember that black dragon from before? We can die just like it did before the passageway completely closes. Mei Gue, evil dragon, said. Life sacrifice? The evil dragons turned toward all of the mighty figures before them. In that instant, the Western Dragon Forest mighty figures, Long Out Yin, and the others all unleashed defensive spell techniques. All of the evil dragons, the spatial passageway, was becoming darker and darker, and it was about to engulf the white light. There was no time to kill them. Master, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. The ancient dragon empress shuddered, and she immediately turned around. However, she was greeted by the sight of Dark Knight, Trident plunging his double-headed spear into his heart. Blood splattered through the air, and the dragon tribe male's life was quickly taken. The ancient dragon empress' eyes widened as she looked at Dark Knight, Trident's vibrant smile. Master, I'm sorry I wasn't able to grow into a man that you can be proud of. I don't have the ability to fight alongside you, and I can only look on as you destroy your own Tao and battle your enemies. But at the very least, I was able to protect you in the end. I fulfilled my promise that day. However, this is the only thing I can do for you. Please forgive your useless disciple. Dark Knight, Trident's body began to descend into the passageway between the two worlds. He looked at the pale woman, and he could still recall the vibrant smile on her face when he told her he was going to become stronger and protect her. She was so beautiful. It was a blessing to have such a good master. Dark Knight, Trident disappeared into the passageway between the two worlds with a smile on his face. Chapter 1183. Dark Knight, Trident fell into the passageway between the two worlds, and a dazzling white light erupted from the inky black hole once again. At the same time, pure spatial fluctuations began to appear. The spatial passageway between the two worlds was stabilized again. Neither the evil dragons nor the other two members of the dragon tribe had expected Dark Knight, Trident, to sacrifice himself in order to stabilize the passageway. Just as the evil dragons were still in a daze. Go! The ancient dragon empress roared again. Mei Gue, evil dragon, and Luan Yu, evil dragon, shuddered, and they came to their senses before flying toward the white halo without any hesitation. The ancient dragon empress also retreated. Don't even think about running away. Ha ha ha! After catching his breath, Hades transformed into countless tentacles that reached toward the ancient dragon empress. Stay with you? A smile appeared on the ancient dragon empress' face. There was a hint of ferocity in her vibrant smile. A yellow power of the divine Tao suddenly enshrouded heaven and earth, and all of Hades' tentacles were shredded. What? Hades hurtled back in retreat to evade the yellow power of the divine Tao. However, the ancient dragon empress appeared before Hades in the next instant with tears of blood flowing from her eyes. The red power of the divine Tao proliferated forth. Hades let loose a blood-curdling cry, and his ball-like body suddenly began to churn like boiling water as the power of darkness was seeped into his body. Hades struggled with all his might, but the ancient dragon empress held him in a death grip to prevent him from escaping. Bam! Hades suddenly exploded. His body exploded into a black rain of blood that rained down upon the earth. The Taichu continent's dark god Hades had been insta-killed by the ancient dragon empress just like that. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings stared blankly at this scene, and the atmosphere seemed to have congealed. Hades has once again proven that he's not a good teammate. He's clearly becoming a punching bag for the ancient dragon empress. Ao Xiaowu spoke in a cold voice. So Ao Xiaowu was unleashing her resentment again. The evil dragons had all retreated, and the ancient dragon empress was all alone, but no one dared to provoke her again. She looked at the shattered heaven and earth before slowly wiping away her tears of blood and making her way over to the circular passageway. The passageway between the two worlds emanated a pure white light that was extremely gentle and stable, just like a gentle and timid child who always wanted to become strong and protect others. The Dragon Emperor's smile was bright and beautiful, just like before. Disciple, thank you for everything you have done. Master has been protected by you this time. Very good, very good. Master is really proud of you. The ancient Dragon Empress spread open her arms and leaped down toward the white halo. It was as if they were swarming towards the boy in the tunnel. The last living being of the evil dragon race had also escaped from this world. In the destroyed world, there were no more sounds of battle. All of the powerful beings from the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas stared at one another with wide eyes. The atmosphere was inexplicably awkward. The evil dragons have all fled. What should we do? A dragon asked. There are so many of us. Let's all think of a solution together and brainstorm. We'll definitely be able to find a way out of this predicament. A Dragon Clan powerhouse encouraged. That's right. The more dragons there are, the more powerful we are. Let's think of something together. Some of the Western Dragon Forest members had already begun to gather their companions to discuss countermeasures. Of course, there were also many Dragon Clan powerful beings who turned toward Enlin and the others. Enlin and the others were among the most powerful beings on the battlefield, so they naturally became the people that all of the powerful beings chose to rely on. The world crumbled faster and faster, and the heavens shattered as chaotic energy erupted from the shattered space before sweeping through heaven and earth. Death began to descend. A mighty and irresistible power was stripping away the vitality of all living beings on this continent. There were no longer any flat areas on the ground. Instead, there were bottomless cracks everywhere, as if there were no end in sight. More and more black lines continued to spread. Soon, this entire continent was about to be completely annihilated into nothingness. Big sister, is there really no hope? The 10th Prince of the Dragon King, Ao Huiyu, stared at Ao Xiaowu with despair on his face, hoping for a different answer. There's really no way to save him. There's no way to save him. Find a more comfortable position to die. Ao Xiaowu pulled out her supreme-grade sponge bed and wrapped herself in it before closing her eyes in a peaceful manner. I heard that dying in sleep won't hurt too much, so don't disturb me. The most powerful being from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had already given up. We can probably last for another 10 minutes, Xiao Zhe spoke with a disconsolate expression. And Lin and Su Xiaolan lay on the black brick, holding hands as they looked up at the crumbling heavens. Xiaolan, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking that death doesn't seem as scary as I imagined it to be if I die holding hands with you. What about you? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking that if we reincarnate, we can still become Dao partners, right? A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she nodded. Even if you were a pig in your next life, I'll transform you into a pig immortal, and then we'll continue to love each other. And Lin, you're still being so mischievous at a time like this. You won't get a chance to be mischievous anymore. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. After we die, you might be reincarnated on the Taichu continent, and I'll be reincarnated on Earth. If you have nothing to do, come to Earth more often. I probably won't have a chance to come to the Taichu continent, so you have to come and find me. And Lin felt like if he didn't have his system, he would probably live an ordinary life. The gap between the two of them would be like the gap between two worlds, the gap between an immortal and immortal. Don't worry, I'll help you cultivate in your next life. Su Xiaolan held onto Lin's hand tightly as she spoke with conviction. And Lin's heart jolted. Xiaolan, you're the best. The two of them chatted for a while before moving on to how they were going to meet in their next lives, what secret codes to use, and how they could go to the United University of Cultivation. Xiaoza was dumbfounded. Were they serious about what they were talking about? Why did it sound like it was real? Just as the two of them were happily making plans for their next lives, and Lin's storage ring suddenly began to tremor violently. The evil-slaying sword was trembling violently, conveying a message. I want to go out. I want to go out. And Lin pulled out his evil-slaying sword with a moved expression. Little Xia, I didn't think that you would reveal your true feelings in your final moments. To think that you would voluntarily come out and spend your final moments with me. How thoughtful of you. Reveal my true feelings, my A*S. I'm not going to waste my breath on you. Hurry up. The evil-slaying sword pointed toward a certain direction in the sky with an urgent expression. Take me there. And Lin's brows furrowed. Can't you just die peacefully in your final moments? Why do you have to resort to some heaven-piercing trick? Is this your final obsession, little Xia? And Lin, the evil-slaying sword flared up with rage. Don't waste my time. If you want to live, then listen to me. I command the heavens. And Lin. Su Xiaolan. Chapter 1184. Little Xia, did I hear that right? You command the heavens. And Lin's eyes widened, and he wondered if he was hallucinating from his despair. Cut the crap. Activate your vital energy and stab me in that direction. The evil-slaying sword's urgent voice sounded. In the direction where the sword was pointing, nothingness and chaos had already corroded the entire space. Chaotic laws and violent energy were capable of annihilating all things. That was the place where the world was going to be destroyed, and it was the place where the energy was the most terrifying. F***ck it. I'll do whatever you want to do. Lin made up his mind. He was going to die anyway, so he might as well listen to the evil-slaying sword and give it a try. Xiaolan, let's not talk about the next life for now. Let's focus on this one and see how I save the world. That's what I was thinking too. Go for it. A smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face at the sight of Lin's renewed battle intent. Lin wielded the evil-slaying sword and flew into the sky. The inky black, evil-slaying sword left a black trajectory in the air as an extremely sharp and all-engulfing black light radiated from the tip of the sword, as if it really was going to pierce through the heavens, even though the heavens had already been shattered. Roar? Look, there's someone flying into the sky. Some of the dragon tribe powerful beings let loose cries of surprise upon seeing this. He's pointing his sword at the sky. He couldn't have gone mad, right? Is he trying to commit suicide like that? My God, isn't that Lin? He's extremely powerful, but what is he trying to do? Some of the mighty figures from the dragon court of the eastern seas were perplexed. Sea god Poseidon chuckled coldly. Don't tell me this maniac is trying to slice through the destructive power in the sky and escape to the outside world. He's been forced into a corner, so he's just committing suicide. And Lin's actions had already attracted the attention of almost all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. After all, he was the only one who could commit such a suicidal act at a time like this. Master, Xiaozi stared at the figure that soared into the sky, and a sense of heroism seemed to ignite in his heart. Long Outyin looked at the man in the sky, who was fearless of the destructive power and was charging forward. He was also stunned and said in admiration, "His back is so charming." The chaotic astral wind began to attack, and Lin wielded his evil-slaying sword and sliced the gust of wind in half. A certain power that was imbued with the will of the world swept toward him, and a peculiar black light erupted from the evil-slaying sword, which enshrouded Lin's body and kept the power at bay. No matter what kind of destructive power it was, it couldn't hurt Lin at all. Thus, Lin rose into the sky and pierced through all of the destructive power right before the astonished eyes of all of the dragon tribe powerful beings. Then he stabbed his evil-slaying sword toward the point where the laws of the heavens were the most chaotic. Buzz, a wave swept across the world. The whole world seemed to have become quiet. The power of destruction, the collapsing sky and earth, the sweeping primal chaos astral winds, the chaotic laws, everything seemed to have been stopped. All of the dragon tribe, powerful beings, stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, at a loss for words. Everything had stopped, but the evil-slaying sword did not. Inky black energy began to spread through the entire sky, extending into infinity and beyond, as if it had replaced the heavens of this world. However, that wasn't actually the case. This energy wasn't something that could replace the heavens. It was more like a type of glue, It instantly seeped to the edge of the world, and all of the cracks in the heavens were filled by the black energy, without exception. Then, the cracks were slowly pulled closer and sealed together. Finally, the entire world was restored to its original state. This restoration encompassed the entire world, and it began from the very edge before gradually closing in on the place wherein Lin's evil-slaying sword was pointing. This sky, a dragon tribe mighty figure spoke in a trembling voice. It's healing. It's really healing. Some of the dragon tribe living beings were already shedding tears of excitement. Some of the dragon tribe living beings were still completely dumbstruck, while some of them had already burst into laughter or tears of excitement. He did it. To think that Lin would be so powerful. The old dragon king Ao Ming felt like he was still living in a dream. Everything was far too unimaginable. The sea god Poseidon was extremely embarrassed. He had just said that Lin was going to die, but Lin had just slapped him in the face with this scene. Not only him, but many other dragon tribe living beings were also extremely embarrassed. Of course, most of them were looking at Lin with scorching light in their eyes. They were looking at the back of their savior, and they were all expressing their reverence and admiration. This was the case for both the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. Is he Lin of the 4-9 Immortal Sect? What an extraordinary ability. He saved all of the living beings that we've been using for so long. In ancient times, Her Majesty Nuwa mended the heavens with a stone. Today, Lin mended the heavens with his sword. He's a living god. I feel like Lin is on par with Her Majesty Nuwa. *T. Have you sensed his cultivation base yet? He's only at the soul formation final stage. Do you know what it means for a soul formation final stage cultivator to be able to mend the heavens? This means that Lin's future accomplishments are going to surpass Nuwa's. That's right. Without a doubt. It's obvious. If Lin were a ball, he would probably have been blown to smithereens by all of the dragons. All of the dragon tribe, powerful beings, began to discuss Lin with excitement and reverence in their hearts. Some of the female dragons were even staring at Lin with glazed eyes. All of them transformed into their human forms and stared at the mighty black figure with anticipation in their eyes. When the world was about to be destroyed and all of the dragons thought that they were going to perish for sure, a single person saved all of the dragons. Regardless of whether they were friends or foes, all of them would definitely develop special feelings toward him. What was an unparalleled hero? Lin was an unparalleled hero. Su Xiaolan stared at the man who had mended the heavens with a prideful smile on her face, as if to say, "Look, Lin is awesome, isn't he? He's my lover, my Dao partner." Ao Xiaowu opened her eyes and fell silent as she stared at Lin, who was currently mending the heavens. Am I still not awake? Am I still in a dream? Slap. Ao Xiaowu gave herself a vicious slap on the face before accepting the fact that Lin was mending the heavens. This world is so exciting. It's so wonderful. I'll see you in life. Ao Xiaowu's eyes lit up as she stared at Lin with an intense gaze. Calm down, Xiaowu. Even though he has mended the heavens and is quite powerful, he actually has a lot of flaws. Ao Ming immediately offered a word of caution. He was extremely concerned about his daughter's reaction. He was afraid that his daughter would fall for Lin, just like all of the other female dragons around her, and she was unable to tear her eyes away from Lin. That's right, if Ao Xiaowu were to fall for Lin, it would spell disaster for the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. All of the powerful beings would swear oaths and fall for Lin, and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas could even be renamed to the Dragon Pavilion of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Thankfully, Ao Xiaowu didn't fall for Lin. Instead, she closed her eyes and fell into deep thought. The mending of the heavens had reached its final stage. The inky black energy began to converge toward the tip of the evil-slaying sword, and the shattered heavens were completely repaired. The passageway between the two worlds had also disappeared due to the restoration of the barrier. All that was left were the invisible yet chaotic laws of heaven and earth. Just as Lin thought that the evil-slaying sword would be able to straighten out the chaotic laws of heaven and earth, The evil-slaying sword slashed down upon the invisible laws of heaven and earth, shattering them before absorbing them. Lin, Chapter 1185. The chaotic laws were instantly sliced apart by the evil-slaying sword. Lin was given a massive fright. Little Xia, what are you doing? The existing laws have already been destroyed, so I'm taking this opportunity to cleanse all of the excess laws before absorbing them. The evil-slaying sword replied with an excited expression. Huh? Absorb? And Lin was at a complete loss, as if he was listening to a heavenly book. The evil-slaying sword didn't say anything. Instead, its blade fell upon heaven and earth, and an invisible blade projection sliced through the invisible shackles, as if something between heaven and earth had been sliced apart. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings turned their eyes toward the man standing at the very top of the starry sky. They could all sense that something between heaven and earth had been sliced apart by his sword, and there seemed to be some kind of power converging toward the sword and in Lin's hand in the form of a vortex. That's right, the black sword was absorbing something from this world. Ao Xiaowu was the most sensitive to the heavenly Tao, and she extended a hand to materialize a small green blade of grass. The blade of grass danced in the wind before quickly withering away. So that's how it is. Ao Xiaowu looked up at Lin. All of the highly intelligent spirit evil dragons in this world have already been evacuated, so he can use this opportunity to sever the net of laws. Is he trying to slash this cursed world to a lower level while it's being repaired? Slash it to a lower level? What does that mean? Ao Qingyu asked with a surprised expression. There are different levels of worlds. Lin is trying to slash a world that can give birth to highly intelligent spirit evil dragons to a lower level so that it can absorb the laws of destruction and become a world that can't give birth to highly intelligent spirit evil dragons. Ao Xiaowu explained. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. He could do something like that? What's going on? Ao Qingyu was astonished. A god of creation can also do this to a small world that they created. Perhaps this world was headed in the wrong direction to begin with, so he might as well start over. An intrigued expression appeared on Ao Xiaowu's face. The ancient Taichu dragon realm is not some small world, so he shouldn't have the ability to do this. But perhaps it's the will of the heavens. He grasped the opportunity very well. It seems like he's going against the heavens, but in fact he's following the great Tao of heaven and earth. Xiao Tu also seemed to be enlightened. This is just like death and rebirth. Perhaps after this world was reborn, it wanted to abandon its original path of evolution. The old laws and systems were all discarded in order to be reborn and reborn. As they spoke, a cool breeze blew through the world for millions of kilometers. New sprouts began to grow on the cracked ground, and life began to recover. Everything seemed to have returned to the beginning. This world didn't belong to the ancient Tai Chu realm. It was like a new, independent world. All the experts of the Dragon Clan looked at the changes in the world and seemed to have comprehended something. And Lin, who was in the starry sky, still maintained the posture of stabbing the sky with his sword. Everything calmed down. The mending of the heavens was over, but he couldn't retract his sword. It was as if the sword was a nail nailed into the sky. What's going on? And Lin muttered, feeling a little uneasy. However, he didn't dare to do anything else in fear of disturbing the evil-slaying sword and triggering other changes. That's right, he was very aware of this. Master really is very powerful. His mending of the heavens is simply incredible. Xiao Zhe's body trembled with excitement as tears welled up in his eyes. Ao Yuetang heaved a faint sigh. As expected, only the weak can land the killing blow. All-powerful beings mend the heavens. She thought back to the words that she had said to Lin after he had insta-killed 2 dragons with a single punch. Now that she thought back to it, she couldn't help but recall what she had said. Priceless advice. Our dragon court wants to oppose someone like him? Have we gone insane? No. We have to persuade father when we get back. Ao Huayu exclaimed with shock on his face. Su Xiaolan repressed her laughter upon hearing this, as she looked up at the man in the sky. Gradually, all of the Dragon Clan cultivators began to discuss spiritedly among themselves. All of you, look at his back. How imposing and reliable he is. He's so handsome, but why is he still maintaining this posture? Hasn't the mending of the heavens already concluded? There must be a deeper meaning behind his actions. It's not something that we can fathom. Perhaps he's battling some kind of unknown power, but we can't see it. Go, Senior and Lin. May Mr. and Lin defeat his powerful enemy as soon as possible. And Lin felt as if there were 10,000 mythological beasts stampeding over his heart as he listened to all of the cheers. He wasn't fighting. He just couldn't draw the evil-slaying sword. After what seemed like an eternity, all of a sudden, the evil-slaying sword began to glow with a scintillating light. Inky black specks of light began to materialize in the air as an aura of annihilation began to proliferate. And Lin's expression shifted, but he didn't even have a chance to do anything before something that left him completely dumbstruck took place. A woman in a black dress suddenly appeared before him. She appeared to be only 5 or 6 years of age with a height of 130 centimeters. She had an extremely adorable and chubby face and a pair of dead fish eyes that were cold and indifferent, as if she were bored to death and didn't care about anything. Her inky black hair was even longer than she was tall, and it covered her slender feet. The atmosphere around them suddenly fell silent. All of the dragons had stopped talking due to the appearance of the little girl. They stared blankly at the peculiar scene unfolding before them, and the air also became deathly silent. The little girl looked around and stretched lazily before speaking in a childish voice. I'm finally out. I'm so happy. And Lin shuddered in fear as he pointed his evil-slaying sword at the woman before him. Who are you? The little girl cocked her head to the side as she looked at Lin. Me? I'm the sword spirit of the evil-slaying sword. And Lin's pupils contracted, and his mouth gaped open in shock. Nonsense. The sword spirit of my evil-slaying sword is clearly a beautiful woman with long legs and a slender waist. How could it be a chubby kid with short legs like you? Reality was far too different from his imagination, and Lin was unable to accept this. The little girl, all of the dragons, the little girl's expression instantly darkened. She waved a hand, and the evil-slaying sword flew out of Lin's hand before landing in the little girl's hand. And Lin's expression shifted drastically. What are you doing? Before he could finish his sentence, an inky black sword projection that seemed to be threatening to engulf the entire starry sky suddenly appeared. The sword projection extended for over 50 kilometers before engulfing Lin in the blink of an eye. Plah! And Lin threw up a large mouthful of blood as he plummeted from the sky. The little girl held her sword in front of her, and a fierce expression suddenly appeared in her dead fish eyes. I've wanted to beat the crap out of you for a long time, but unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to do so. Now, I finally have the chance. All of the dragons. Was this Senior and Lin's sword spirit? How terrifying. Chapter 1186. Some of the mighty figures present had seen a weapon that had manifested a sword spirit before. However, a sword spirit that attacked its master as soon as it manifested a sword spirit. This was definitely the first time that all of the Dragon Tribe mighty figures present had ever seen such a thing. This is truly a wonder of the ages. First, I saw a sword spirit mend the heavens, and now I've seen a sword spirit attack its master. One eye-opener. Mr. Lin is truly an extraordinary man. By the way, that sword spirit is so adorable and chubby. I really want to go and touch it. If you're not afraid of being slashed, then go ahead. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings began to discuss this spectacular spectacle again. Su Xiaolan looked on speechlessly at the plummeting Lin, and she was just about to catch Lin when she stopped in her tracks. Lin had already stopped in midair and swallowed a blood spirit pill. He flared up with rage. What are you doing? Is there a sword spirit that attacks its master as soon as it appears? The little girl placed her hands on her hips, and the evil-slaying sword danced around her body like a fairy. She chuckled coldly. You have the cheek to criticize me? Is there a sword spirit that disdains my master as soon as it appears? I was just joking. Did you really have to attack me? And Lin was not convinced. You sure have a bad temper, little girl. The little girl chuckled. How childish. You're judging your age based on your appearance? You really are an ignorant, stupid, reckless, greedy, and shameless person. And Lin's lips twitched. You're asking for a beating, aren't you? It's time to teach you a lesson on how to talk. I'm going to kill you. You think I'm scared of you? The little girl's expression darkened, and an earth-shattering sword projection erupted from her evil-slaying sword. Eat my fist. Eat my sword. The two of them roared as they clashed. Boom, boom, boom. Bam, bam, bam. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh under the starry sky. Violent energy clashes swept through the air for several dozen kilometers. An earth-shattering battle erupted between the human and the sword spirit. All of the powerful beings from the Western Dragon Forest and Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas looked on with dumbstruck expressions. Why were they fighting? How could they fight? Master and sword spirit scolded each other without saying a word, and then started fighting. This situation could be called an epic drama. All the mighty figures of the Dragon Clan had a question in their hearts. The girl that Enlin summoned was really a sword spirit. This was probably a fake sword spirit. How could a sword spirit be like this? Not only were the dragon tribe cultivators thinking this way, but even Enlin was thinking the same thing. The battle lasted for a full 10 minutes. The little girl lay in the void, waved her fair and tender little hands, and panted heavily. I'm done. I've just condensed my spirit body, and my power is too weak. And Lin rushed in front of the girl and gave her a big slap. Bang! Oh, the little girl cried out in pain from the slap. Her body smashed into the ground like a meteor, creating a huge crater. All the dragons, if I stop just because you tell me to, then wouldn't I lose a lot of face? And Lin wasn't going to do that. He was going to slap this little girl's bottom for sure. If he didn't teach her a lesson, what would happen to her in the future? And Lin rushed in front of the little girl and pressed one hand against her chest while grabbing onto his evil-slaying sword with the other. WH, what do you want? The little girl's legs were clamped together with shock and horror on her face. He. Little Xia, do you really think you can do whatever you want just because you've nurtured a spirit? A sly smile appeared on Enlin's face. Don't forget who your master is. A small golden sword suddenly appeared on Enlin's forehead, and a burst of golden might enshrouded heaven and earth. The little girl moaned with a blush on her face. Golden divine light enshrouded the little girl's body and the inky black sword, quickly replenishing their energy and drastically increasing their power. Do you concede? Enlin asked. No, I don't. The little girl pursed her lips as if she was repressing something, and tears welled up in her eyes. You really don't concede? The small golden sword on Enlin's forehead glowed even brighter. The little girl couldn't help but moan as her cheeks were as red as an apple. Stop. Don't use that ability on me anymore. You concede, all right? A smile appeared on Enlin's face. Then call me Master. Master. The little girl's cold voice was tinged with humiliation, and there were 2 streams of tears of humiliation running down her cheeks. What a good girl. I'll call you Little Xia from now on. That's what I usually call you. Enlin nodded with an elated expression, and the golden sword on his forehead disappeared. Oh, the little girl was a little indignant. Enlin pulled Little Xia out of the crater and patted the dust off her body with a gentle expression. Look at you, you're so dirty. Make sure you stay clean in the future. Little Xia, why am I so dirty? Don't you have any idea? How could there be such a shameless person in this world? All of the dragon tribe cultivators were dumbstruck upon seeing this, as if their worldview had been refreshed once again. Is this some kind of large-scale training session? What did Enlin just do? I feel like there's something off about this. Roar! What a monster! He's not even sparing a little girl. Su Xiaolan looked at Enlin with a calm expression as she listened to everyone's fervent discussion. This scene is actually very normal. Isn't it just a touching scene where the sword spirit and its master quarrel with each other, and then one of them is forced by the other's tyranny and finally reconciles? At least, that was what Su Xiaolan was trying to convince herself. Little Xia followed behind Enlin with a cold expression. What was that power just then? Unlin turned to her with a mysterious smile. Why don't you take a guess? Little Xie took a deep breath, and she almost couldn't help but raise her sword again. Little Xie, I replenished your energy and made you feel better. Don't you even know how to say thank you? Unlin looked at the little girl beside him with a hint of a smile on his face. Little Xie pouted and ignored Unlin as she continued on her own without saying anything. Who would have thought that the evil-slaying sword would still be so arrogant after nurturing a spirit? Unlin was a little exasperated. It looked like he still had a long way to go on the path of training, and Lin decided not to think about this and began to carefully observe his newfound power. The golden light that had trained little Xie was the power that Lin had attained after completing the metal-type cultivation method mission for the evil-slaying sword. Stage 1 Divine Weapon Origin Energy. After attaining Divine Weapon Origin Energy, one could become the master of all weapons and command all weapons in the world. It was an extremely powerful metal-type power, and the derivative power that Lin had developed could be used to charge weapons and sword spirits, replenish their energy, and further enhance their power. Little Xie had been completely exhausted, but after Lin injected his divine weapon origin energy in her body, she was instantly filled to the brim with vital energy, and apparently, it was quite comfortable. It was exactly because of this that little Xie accepted her master with a humiliated expression. Chapter 1187. Lin, are you all right? Su Xiaolan immediately made her way over to Lin. I'm fine. Let me introduce my sword spirit to you. Her name is Little Xie. Lin pointed at the chubby little girl beside him with a smile. Hello, Little Xie. My name is Su Xiaolan. If Lin bullies you in the future, you can tell me, and I'll teach him a lesson for you. Su Xiaolan made her way over to Little Xie and bent down with a dainty smile. A faint smile appeared on Little Xie's face. I know you, and I don't have amnesia. I remember everything from the past. That's great. Can I touch you? Su Xiaolan's eyes lit up with a scorching light. Huh? Little Xie blinked with her dead fish eyes. She didn't know what he meant. At this moment, Su Xiaolan had already placed her hand on Little Xie's chubby little face and was kneading it with excitement. Your face is so adorable. It's so smooth and soft. Su Xiaolan had an elated smile on her face. The urge to touch Little Xie had been present in her heart ever since Little Xie had appeared, and it had only grown stronger and stronger. Now, her dream had come true. That's right, Little Xie looked like a 5-year-old girl. She was extremely adorable and chubby, and anyone who saw her would want to rub her cheeks. This was completely different from the cold and aloof beauty that Lin had envisioned. It was exactly because of this that Lin had thought that his sword spirit had been born with the wrong sword spirit. Even now, he was still feeling that way. As an exceptional sword immortal, Lin, not only did his sword spirit not look mighty, but it was also a chubby little girl. How was he supposed to flex now? He was not cool at all, and Lin was enraged at the thought of this. He wasn't a Lullicon, so he couldn't get high at all. However, all of his friends around him were getting high. Look, this is a sword spirit that has been born with a spirit. This is the first time I've seen it. Aoi Wetang exclaimed with excitement. This is the cutest and most unique artifact spirit I've ever seen, Xiao Tu chimed in. And Lin's face darkened. Senior, when you said she has the most personality, are you referring to the fact that she chased after her master as soon as she gave birth to her spirit? Ha. An awkward but polite smile appeared on Xiao Tu's face. You're already such a unique character, so it's only natural for an artifact spirit to have a bit of a personality. I'm so envious. When will my sword be able to nurture a spirit? Ao Qingyu murmured to himself with an expression of envy and hatred on his face. The fact that an artifact could speak only proved that it had spirituality and its own consciousness. Although it was extremely rare, it was still possible to encounter it. However, it was extremely rare even in the boundless Tai Chu continent to manifest a true spirit body and become an artifact that could live on its own. They can only be found by chance. Even the acting tough king of the Dragon Court, who was good with swords, didn't have such luck. Little Xie was adorable, and even Ao Xiaowu couldn't help but make her way toward her with an itchy expression. What an adorable little sword spirit. Can I touch it? Little Xie glared at Ao Xiaowu with a cold expression. F***CK off. Ao Xiaowu, all of the dragons, huh? Ha! I told you, this sword spirit really has a personality. Xiao Tu forced a smile onto his face to smooth things over. And Lin pinched little Xie's round face with an enraged expression. Watch your words. Get your filthy hands off me, you fish-lipped human. Little Xie was very angry, but she was also very adorable when she was angry. And Lin pinched little Xie's cheeks, and he suddenly discovered that her cheeks really were very easy to pinch. It was warm and soft, smooth and soft. Due to the fact that it was a bun face, it was very malleable and could be molded into any shape he wanted, so it was still very adorable no matter how he pinched it. He couldn't stop, and Lin felt as if he had discovered a new continent, and he was extremely excited. I take back what I said earlier. I'm so lucky to have a sword spirit like you, he said as he rubbed his cheeks. Little Xie, I take back what I said earlier. Little Xie's words were leaking from Lin's pinching, but she still insisted. And I'm going to say that you're a freak after that. Huh? And Lin's hands faltered upon hearing this. At this moment, little Xie's body glowed with light, and she fused into the evil-slaying sword. And Lin, little Xie, I was wrong. Can you come out? I won't pinch your cheeks anymore. Just come out and get some fresh air. And Lin held the evil-slaying sword and apologized with all his heart. Evil-slaying sword. F***CK off. And Lin, he had no choice. Little Xie had a bad temper, so he could only let her be. And Lin returned to the brick to recuperate. After that, many Dragon Tribe powerful beings expressed their gratitude to Enlin in all types of ways. Some tried to get close to him, some expressed their concern, some expressed their admiration, and some even gave him gifts, and Lin's prestige was undoubtedly the highest among all of the mighty figures. His reputation would definitely spread even further after the Dragon Tribe mighty figures returned to the Dragon Tribe. The powerful beings from the Western Dragon Forest and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas split up to rest in two different areas. This was the first time they had been so harmonious. The two sides were facing each other, but they didn't engage in battle. Perhaps it was due to the fact that everyone had become a lot less competitive after experiencing the destruction of this world. And Lin wanted to put the evil-slaying sword into his storage ring, only to find that his storage ring was unable to store the evil-slaying sword, and he tried a few times to no avail. Don't be silly. Storage rings can only store non-living beings. I've already nurtured a spirit, so I could be considered a true living being. I can't be stored in spatial tools anymore. A tender voice sounded. Am I going to have to carry you on my back forever? And Lin was astonished. That's right. Why do you look so disgusted? The evil-slaying sword trembled violently, as if it wanted to cut someone down. No, you're thinking too much. And Lin hurriedly pulled out a scabbard from his storage ring. The scabbard was black and golden in color, and it didn't have any special functions other than making it look more badass. He sheathed the evil-slaying sword and hung it on his back. Even though I look more like a sword immortal, I'm still not used to it. And Lin shrugged with a disdainful expression. Little Xie, you're a little heavy. You should go on a diet. Evil-slaying sword, huh? By the way, how did you nurture a spirit in the past? Did you attain an epiphany while mending the heavens? And Lin suddenly thought of something and asked. The evil-slaying sword didn't hide anything at the mention of this. No, mending the heavens is only my ability. I nurtured a spirit by absorbing the energy of this world. Absorbing the power of this world? And Lin blinked as he recalled the scene when he was mending the heavens. You mean like that chaotic power of laws? That's right. Little Xie replied with an elated expression. That kind of power of laws that has been abandoned by this world. For example, killing a dragon tribe living being can cause the power of dragons to shift. I went to sever it, then absorbed it so that it would become my nourishment. As a result, my spiritual aura increased explosively, and I nurtured a spirit. And Lin came to a sudden realization. That sounds very impressive. The ancient dragon empress wanted to break free from that curse her entire life, and the 3 dragon tribes had paid an extremely heavy price for it. Who would have thought that you would eat that terrifying law in the end? How ironic. It's not really ironic. It's all fate. Little Sia spoke in her tender voice. I only attained enlightenment in the final moments of the world's destruction, and I felt like I could mend the heavens. Only after mending the heavens did I feel like I could shatter and engulf all of those redundant laws. And Lin spoke with a solemn expression. You can mend the heavens and eat laws, but you're only a pinnacle-level immortal tool. Even a divine tool isn't as bad *SS as you. Tell me, what kind of sword are you? Little Xia was immediately displeased. You can fight return to void stage mighty figures, break through the divine Tao, and control divine lightning, but you're only a soul formation stage cultivator? Even Tao integration stage mighty figures aren't as bad *SS as you. Tell me, who are you? I'm Lin. He had no response to this retort. She made too much F*King sense. As expected, people of different backgrounds didn't belong to the same family. Chapter 1188. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings were silently waiting for the light of recall. Too many things had happened during the past 2 days, and they were no longer in the mood to fight. Furthermore, there was a piece of solid news that the power of dragons wouldn't be transferred to the Dragon Slayer after killing a dragon tribe living being. How the F*** were they supposed to fight? Unless there was a vendetta between them, everyone chose to distance themselves from one another with cautious expressions. A few dragon tribe mighty figures were discussing a very important matter atop and Lin's massive black brick. That's right, they were discussing how Xiao Tu was going to get to the Tai Chu continent. That's right, he was different from all of the living beings present. He had wandered all the way here from the ancient Tai Chu realm, as this place had the strongest connection to the Tai Chu continent. However, he didn't come here through the spatial gate leading to the Tai Chu continent, so the light of recall wouldn't descend upon him. After all of the dragon tribe powerful beings returned, there was a very good chance that he would be left here all by himself. However, this wasn't a hopeless situation. Lin had already tried this out once in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Xiao Tu was extremely excited. Mr. Lin, I have no one to inherit my techniques, so please be my disciple. I can bestow upon you my undying technique, and I guarantee that you won't be able to die even if you want to. And Lin snapped. F*** off. He was an exceptional sword immortal who had never been inferior to anyone, so he wasn't prepared to accept a master. However, Ao Ming was very excited. Senior Xiao, too. Look at all of my sons and daughters. All of them are exceptional prodigies with exceptional aptitudes. Why don't you consider them? Xiao Tu snapped. F*** off. Are you forcing me to defy the teachings of my ancestors? The cultivation methods and techniques of different dragon tribe surnames must not be passed on together, and there must be no master-disciple relationships between people of different surnames. Xiao Tu turned to Xiao Zhe with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that Xiao Zhe had a master-disciple contract with Lin, Xiao Zhe would clearly be the best choice. It was a pity that the master-disciple contract only allowed one master. Xiao Zhe couldn't sign a contract, so it wasn't a bad idea for a human like Lin to become his disciple as long as it didn't go against the teachings of his ancestors. However, Lin rejected its request without hesitation. Senior Xiao Tu, how about you become my disciple or my beast pet? Look at Xiaoza. He's living such a good life under my tutelage, and he's even attained the super powerful power of the divine Tao. Tina and Shui Zhantian, who came back from the ancient Tai Chu realm with me, have both progressed to the return to void stage. It's quite clear that I've brought great fortune to both my disciples and my beast pets. And Lin patted his chest with a smug expression. Xiao Tu's lips twitched. To think that Lin dared to say such a thing. Just how thick did his skin have to be? The light of summoning between 2 realms could summon back all the living beings who had entered and those who had signed contracts with him. This was how Lin had taken Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Shui Zhantian from the ancient Tai Chu realm. It was clearly a very simple matter. However, neither Lin nor Xiao Tu were willing to accept this offer, so they hadn't decided on it yet. I'm not in a hurry anyway. You can think about it yourself. Senior Shout Tuesday. And Lin lay down on his black brick and whistled in a carefree manner as he narrowed his eyes in satisfaction. Xiaotu was fuming with rage upon seeing this. That's right. He was the one who was in a hurry. It didn't matter to Enlin at all whether or not he signed the contract. As soon as the light of summoning appeared, he would be able to leave. Xiao Zhe couldn't bear to see Xiao Tu's conflicted expression, and he made his way over to him. Senior Xiao Tu, you don't have to feel so wronged. It's actually quite good to be Master's disciple. You need to think about things from a different perspective. Xiao Tu's brows furrowed. What perspective? Isn't someone who can mend the heavens bad? SS. Xiao Zhe asked. Xiao Tu nodded. Bad SS. Then do you think your master can mend the heavens bad SS? Xiao Zhe asked. Xiao Tu knew what Xiao Zhe was going to say, but he could only concede with difficulty. Bad SS. Isn't someone who can control divine lightning bad SS? Xiao Zhe asked. Xiao Tu was astonished. Enlin can control divine lightning? Lord of Transcendence. Enlin's name is renowned throughout the entire Tai Chu continent. You can ask any Dragon Tribe mighty figure here, and they'll all know who he is. Xiao Zhe replied with a proud expression. Xiao Tu looked around at the Dragon Tribe mighty figures around him, and all the mighty figures who had heard their conversation nodded in silence. It was clear that this was a well-known fact. Xiao Tu, bad SS. Xiao Zhe splayed his hands open. My master can mend the heavens and control divine lightning. So why can't you accept such an awesome person as your master? Xiao Tu gritted his teeth. But he's a soul formation stage cultivator. Isn't it even more awesome for a soul formation stage cultivator to be able to do that? Xiao Zhe countered. Xiao Tu opened his mouth to say something, but he didn't know what to say. His words were way too king reasonable. But he's so young. I'm a Dragon Tribe mighty figure who has lived for countless years, and I'm old enough to be his ancestor. Xiao Tu was still putting up a final struggle. A smile appeared on Xiao Zhe's face. You think his age is inappropriate? I'm just like you. I've also lived for countless years. And I'm not afraid to tell you that all of my master's beast pets and servants are all younger than him. After all, my master is only in his 20s. My master is only in his 20s, but he's already more bad SS than you, even though you've lived for countless years. Let me ask you this. Are you really unwilling to follow such a supremely talented prodigy? Xiao's words were deafening and enlightening. Xiao Tu's mouth gaped open in astonishment. I've lived for countless years, but I can't even compare to a junior who's only lived for just over 20 years. I don't know why, but I'm suddenly struck by a sense of inferiority. It's okay if you feel inferior. My master won't look down on you. My bad SS master is willing to accept you as his disciple and take you to a brand new world of cultivation. Xiao Zhe was extremely excited. Really? Xiao Tu's breathing accelerated. Enlin really won't look down on me? He's willing to accept me as his disciple? Xiao Zhe wore a conflicted expression. How about you confirm this with Master? Everyone fell deathly silent. Ao Meng and Ao Qingyu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Su Xiaolan, Long Out Yin, and the others all drew sharp intakes of breath as they stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. What the hell was going on? Why was Xiao Tu begging to become Enlin's disciple all of a sudden? Had the world gone insane? Xiao Tu had been duped. At this moment, Enlin made his way over to them with a benevolent smile on his face. As long as you're willing to accept me as your master, I won't look down on you for being too old. As long as you have an unwavering desire to reach the Dao integration stage, everything will be fine. Xiao Tu nodded with excitement. Don't worry, I've been stuck at the Return to Void Pinnacle stage for so long, and I'm only unable to progress to the Dao integration stage due to circumstances. I won't embarrass you. Enlin nodded. That's great. Thus, Enlin and Xiao Tu established a master and disciple contract. Enlin was his master. Xiao Tu was his disciple. Chapter 1189. Xiao Tu and Enlin established a master-disciple contract, and he was quite elated. However, he soon felt like something was amiss. Wait, why am I the one begging you to become my disciple now? Xiao Tu was astonished. My good disciple, this shows that you've finally recognized reality and made the wisest choice. Enlin's benevolent smile remained on his face. Xiao Tu clasped a hand over his chest, and he felt like a pack of mythological beasts were stampeding over his heart. He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Amos, Master, can you give me some time to calm down? Xiao Tu was on the verge of a mental breakdown when he uttered the word Master. A monster that had lived for hundreds of thousands of years was referring to a human in his 20s as Master. How could he not be on the verge of a mental breakdown? All right, my good disciple, I'll give you some time to calm down. You can tell me whatever you need to tell me later. There's no need to keep a secret. Enlin's smile was still as warm as ever. He was trying his best to emphasize the difference between a disciple and a master, and he was confident that Xiao Tu wouldn't have this strange feeling anymore once he got used to it. Xiao Tu nodded upon hearing this before taking a nap by himself. Enlin returned to his black brick with a calm expression on his face, and his white robe fluttered in the wind, giving him a graceful and otherworldly appearance. All of the dragon tribe, mighty figures, looked on with incredulity in their eyes. Enlin had taken a top-tier dragon tribe mighty figure as his disciple in the blink of an eye. They felt like they were dreaming. Dragon King Ao Meng of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas was muttering to himself, "It's over, it's over." He had clearly been dealt a heavy blow. Just who is this Enlin? He's way too terrifying. He took a primordial dragon tribe mighty figure who has lived for countless years as his disciple, and he's not even batting an eyelid. What a terrifying man. Perhaps this is the aptitude of a powerful being. We're no match for him. All of the dragon tribe mighty figures discussed spiritedly among themselves with expressions of shock and envy. Enlin turned to Xiao Zhe and nodded in praise. Well done, little Xiao. Xiao Zhe could be said to have contributed greatly to Enlin's acceptance of a disciple. Master, everything I said was the truth. I was just helping him see the truth, Xiao Zhe said humbly. You are worth teaching. You are my most outstanding disciple. Enlin was relieved. Su Xiaolan was speechless as she watched the master and disciple flatter each other. Time passed slowly. Everything returned to normal. Enlin lay down on the black brick and silently counted the spoils of war he had obtained. There were a total of 5 storage rings belonging to soul formation stage dragons. There was nothing particularly useful inside, just some spirit tools, spirit pills, glittering jewels, and artifacts made from dragon parts. What was worth mentioning was that there were a total of 2 million spirit stones. The most important items were the storage rings of Frost God Zhuoma and Lightning God Zeus. They were returned to Void final stage mighty figures, and they were a race that loved to hoard treasures the most, so they were definitely extremely wealthy. Let's take a look at that poor B** starred storage ring first. Enlin smiled and refined the storage ring with excitement. He injected his consciousness into the storage ring, and he was almost blinded by the shiny, golden object inside. Gasp! What the hell is this? There was an extremely dazzling golden ball of lightning within the storage ring, which seemed to be able to fluctuate between brighter and dimmer as one breathed. When it was bright, it was even more dazzling than the sun, but when it dimmed, it was as if it had completely disappeared into thin air. Enlin pulled out the palm-sized ball of lightning from the storage ring, and it instantly lit up like the sun in the sky, giving all of the surrounding dragon tribe mighty figures a fright. Mr. Enlin, you've gone too far. Why are you trying to pollute our light? Ao Xiaowu sat up with a start and berated her with an enraged expression. Only then did she put on a mask and go back to sleep. Enlin was also given a fright by this light, and he immediately refined it before activating his divine inspection technique. True Yang Divine Lightning Ball, a ball that has been infused with the power of divine lightning of the sun. It is extremely compatible and can be unleashed with one's lightning techniques, thereby greatly enhancing the power of lightning. High-rank immortal tool. Holy F asterisk CK. It's a high-rank immortal tool. What a treasure. And Lin's eyes lit up as he let loose an involuntary cry of surprise. Every single immortal tool was priceless, and high-rank immortal tools were extremely rare. In particular, this true Yang Divine Lightning Ball was extremely compatible with his abilities. Great harvest. This was truly a great harvest. Thinking about it now, Zeus was really quite pitiful. Not only was his power of the divine Tao lightning type, but even his trump card was also lightning. It was such a tragedy that he didn't even have the courage to pull out this ball after encountering Enlin. Enlin turned his attention back to Zeus' storage ring. He drew a sharp intake of breath at the sight of the mountainous pile of vital stones and spirit stones. If converted to spirit stones, there were a total of 12 million spirit stones here. This really is a rich dragon. He then turned his attention elsewhere and tallied up all of the other treasures. 3 immortal pills, 5 immortal fruits, dozens of spirit tools, over 100 spirit pills. This was even more than what Enlin had obtained from killing several return to void stage mighty figures in the past. Enlin then refined Zhuo Ma's storage ring. Sure enough, Zhuo Ma didn't disappoint him. There was also one immortal tool, Ice God Dart, refined from the essential liquid of the great Een Immortal Meridian. It is imbued with the extremely powerful power of Een and is extremely fast. This is an assassination intermediate rank immortal tool. So it's an assassination immortal tool. That's quite rare. Enlin nodded with a wide smile on his face. This beautiful Zhuo Ma also had a lot of spirit stones, which amounted to 9 million. There were even 5 immortal pills and 9 immortal fruits. This was truly a massive haul. As expected, not only are the entire bodies of dragons full of treasures, but even their storage rings also contain a staggering amount of treasures. I've struck it rich from this battle. Enlin chortled with glee. After tallying up all of the treasures, he then tallied up the spirit stones in his storage ring. 150 million. Enlin's body shuddered as a sense of elation welled up in his heart. After a long while, he raised his head with a forlorn expression. I have so much money. Is it really going to become a number? No, it will never become a number. It is the source of my happiness. This trip to the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm had truly been a massive haul. Not only was this a bountiful haul, but it was also a bountiful haul in terms of power. The evil-slaying sword had successfully nurtured a spirit, thereby fulfilling all of the prerequisites for progressing to the return to void stage. As long as he could obtain the divine pills and divine tools, he would be able to progress to the return to void stage. With this in mind, Enlin was filled with a sense of pride. Another period of time passed. Heaven and earth surged as a summoning power suddenly appeared. Specks of golden light began to appear on everyone's bodies. Xiao Tu, my good disciple, don't just stand there. Come over here, we're going back. Enlin yelled with a benevolent expression. Xiao Tu made his way over and grabbed onto Enlin's hand, upon which he also felt a summoning power. In the end, all of the living beings transformed into specks of golden light before disappearing from this world. Chapter 1190. Within the South Snake Sea realm of the East Sea, the dark clouds gradually began to dissipate. Mythological beast Basya heaved a forlorn sigh. Sigh, I thought the ancestral land was going to fall. The evil dragons sure are daring. Even I was screwed over by them. I wonder who it was that saved the ancestral land. I have to thank him. One figure after another began to appear in front of the Azure Dragon statue. One intense battle. 20 of the dragon court of the eastern seas went in, but only 12 came back. That's a record high casualty rate. However, that's not too bad. If the ancestral land had been destroyed and all of the powerful beings of the 2 tribes had perished, then the Western Dragon Forest would have been severely wounded, and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas would have been completely screwed. Mythological beast Basya's expression suddenly shifted. This, the outsider who caused the upheaval in heaven and earth, was also here, in front of the Azure Dragon statue. Phew! So this is the Tai Chu continent. Xiao Tu narrowed his eyes as he breathed in and out with elation. This really is a world full of vitality and infinite possibilities. I like it here. Boom! There was a sudden roar. A turtle with a dragon head and a turtle body that was only the size of a human descended from the sky. All of the dragon tribe cultivators extended respectful salutes at the sight of this turtle. This was none other than mythological beast Ba Xia's clone. Ba Xia didn't look at the dragon core of the eastern seas. Instead, he turned to Xiao Tuesday. You're a primordial dragon tribe cultivator? That's right, Xiao Tu admitted before introducing himself. I'm a dragon tribe cultivator from the Xiao family of the ancient Dragon Mountain ranges. My name is Xiao Tuesday. Ba Xia's expression eased slightly. All right, tell me what happened in there. No one dared to be negligent, and they recounted everything that had happened inside in full detail. Ao Inu and the other dragon tribe cultivators who hadn't entered the ancestral land all gathered around with curious expressions. These things were not secrets to begin with. The Western Dragon Forest mighty figures definitely wouldn't keep a secret. Even he was astonished upon hearing that the ancient Dragon Empress had used a certain flaw in the heavenly Tao to forcibly open up a passageway to the evil dragons. When it heard that Enlin had mended the heavens with a single sword strike and cut down the world's level, it was so shocked that it almost couldn't maintain its clone. Ao Inu was completely dumbfounded as she stared at the man in front of her. She couldn't believe that all of this was done by him, and her outlook on cultivation was refreshed once again. Mythological beast Ba Xia's golden eyes darted around as he appraised Enlin, and the shock on his face did not diminish in the slightest. In the end, his gaze settled on the evil-slaying sword on Enlin's back. "Can I see your sword spirit?" Ba Xia asked. Enlin was stunned. Before he could speak, a cold and indifferent voice suddenly came from behind him. "Evil-slaying sword. F***CK off." Enlin, Ba Xia. All the dragons were shocked. This was Ba Xia, a mythological beast of the Tao integration stage. Wasn't this sword just asking to be killed? Uff. Ao Xiao burst into laughter upon seeing this. She recalled what had happened to Ba Xia, and she had to admit that she was in the same boat as Ba Xia. And Lin almost threw up a mouthful of blood. "Little Xia, can't you just talk like a normal person?" Ba Xia had never thought that it would be insulted like this, and it was a little dazed. Xiao Tu immediately tried to mediate the situation. "This evil-slaying sword has quite a personality, so please don't take it to heart, Senior Ba Xia. We've all been insulted by her before, and Enlin has even been slashed by her." Only then did Ba Xia come to its senses, and its turtle shell shuddered violently. It actually had an extremely violent temper, but it still forced itself to calm down. "All right, this incident has a very serious impact on the dragon tribe. I still have things to do, so you guys can go back now." It was quite clear that Ba Xia was telling them to leave. Everyone left Ba Xia's divine mountain in a very sensible manner. Prior to their departure, many of the dragon tribe cultivators expressed their gratitude to Enlin and Su Xiaolan again. The relationship between the 4-9 Immortal sect and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had been eased after the battle in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Ao Meng didn't say anything about the actions of his juniors. In reality, they were already very thankful that Enlin and the others didn't want to pursue the matter any further. They were just worried that he would go underwater and wreak havoc in the Dragon Court again. Ao Meng, Lu Zhenhai, and the others invited Long Outyin to join the Dragon Court again, and they even offered very enticing conditions, only for Long Outyin to turn them down in a resolute manner. All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators almost threw up mouthfuls of blood upon hearing this. So the Dragon Court was being poached by the 4-9 Immortal sect again? Huh, why did he say again? Long Outyin was initially hesitant, but after seeing Enlin mend the sky and Xiao Tu join the Dragon Court, he no longer had any reservations and made his final decision. All of the powerful beings from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas suddenly realized something, and that was that the 4-9 Immortal sect was becoming more and more powerful, and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas was no longer a force to contend with. "Let's go." A hint of grief appeared on Ao Meng's face as he transformed into a black dragon and dove into the ocean. One giant dragon after another followed closely behind him, creating an extremely spectacular sight to behold. They had lost many brothers and sisters as well as powerful beings from the Divine Guardian Squad during this battle, so they had to rest and recuperate. And Lin led everyone back to the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Bai Ling had already received news that sect leader Lin had successfully completed his mission and was on his way back to the sect, so she immediately gathered all of the pavilion lords, elders, and disciples to welcome him back. Furthermore, the sect leader had personally gone to the Dragon Court to borrow money, so it was a must to welcome him back. Outside the gate of the 4-9 Immortal Sect, Bai Ling, Lu Qianhuan, Tang Shimin, and the others had all gathered. Core disciples Yi Ling, Bai Lian, Cheng Yingxiong, Zhou Yu, Ding Xiang, and the others were all present. Not long after that, the white-robed sect leader stepped onto a black brick and appeared in their field of vision. Beside him was a group of entourage members. Welcome back, sect leader. Sect leader has attained the Tao of heaven and earth, and you have attained the pinnacle of wisdom and martial arts. May your divine glory last for 10,000 years. All of the sect's core disciples yelled in unison, and Lin was astonished. Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Bryce were all astonished. Xiao Tu and Long Out Yin were just about to experience the atmosphere of the 4-9 Immortal Sect when they also drew a sharp intake of breath. Did I join some kind of evil cult? Xiao Tu was astonished. You don't know *T. This welcome speech is fantastic. It's filled with pride and awe. I love it. Long Out Yin had a different perspective, and he was extremely excited. And Lin landed in front of all of the welcoming members before turning to look at Bai Ling, who wore a warm smile on her face. This welcome speech of yours is filled with delusions of grandeur. Do you like it? Bai Ling asked with a warm smile. It's fantastic. And Lin gave her a thumbs up. Su Xiaolan, all of the disciples were waiting for their sect leader to object, but who would have thought that Lin would be like this?